Time, let's start with the roll call.
Mr. Butler.
Here.
Ms. Brown. Here. Mr. Helmick.
Here.
Mr. Island.
Here.
Mr. Stannis.
Here.
Webster's here. Mr. Worth.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. And if you would all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. There it is. Yeah, there it is. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to item 3, approval of the agenda. Is there anyone that has any additions, subtractions, changes? I wouldn't think so, but.
Move to approve agenda as presented.
Support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes from August 30th, 2023. We'll start with page 1. Any comments, changes? Hearing none. Page 2. Hearing none. Well, page 3.
Motion approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Item number 5, public comments. At this point, there's no one that's. I'll open public comment. If anyone decides they'd like to speak, I'll explain the rules. If not, I see none.
Don't forget about Zoom.
Oh, yes. Is there anyone on Zoom?
No.
Would like to speak? No? Okay. So then at this point, I will close public comment. And we will move on to new business. Seeing none, I'll move on to old business, which is a review of the draft zoning ordinance, which everybody received in their packets. So tonight we're gonna try to stick to the changes that we're gonna. So everybody's taken time to review this. We're gonna kind of focus on the changes that have been made and try to stick to that, unless there's something that jumped out at somebody when they were reading through it, but I don't know what changed.
Yeah, that isn't.
Well, they were written.
Outlines.
I mean, the notes were all here that were given to us, and then they were highlighted in yellow and green and.
Maybe Dave wants to speak to that, because I know there were some questions about the color scheme and. Do you want to talk about that? They won't have the comments.
Everything is in yellow is based on your feedback over the last several meetings, the consolidated comment list that Linnea sent out. And anything in green is just something I may have a question on or want to confirmation. Okay, there's a lot less green in people to leave their changes were in yellow.
Okay. If I may suggest.
Sure.
I think a lot of this could go quickly, but I think we should go page by page.
Yeah,
Some of us.
That's completely fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
not just by the.
Right, we're just not gonna go
Some-
into as deeply as
Right.
we did initially, so.
People might have found new questions or new issues.
Right.
so.
Yep. Nope, and that's totally fine. So, and then if any issues do come up or any changes that someone has or might suggest. And if they are, feel strongly about them and I would ask that we recognize that this is by majority, kind of a majority rule. So as we make our changes, so if you do notice that you're in the minority as you're arguing something, please, I could either put it to a quick vote, or just back off it, and then we'll let the majority rule on the changes. So, because there's no sense in arguing something over and over and over when the majority feel that it should stay or change or whatever it may be. So having said that, I'll turn it over to, I guess.
Dave,
Do you want to?
Well, we can just, so You'd like to literally just.
We're just gonna start going, yep, page by page, yes.
We have a question. It's
On the cover.
The table of contents, and you might answer it later, which is fine. They're looking at the checklist, and we have a checklist for preliminary condominium planning. All the other ones also have don't we have a final checklist too? I mean, it could be the same, but I didn't get the impression that there's a final condominium plan checklist. Are they, so I just asked that question, and something as we get to the condominium article is, we already talked about preliminary.
That's at the back, page 23-5.
Right.
Okay, so section 1730C is the final condominium plan. So a preliminary condominium plan, the similar requirements are outlined in the condominium act. And so that's what we have to review the preliminary plan against. Then section 1730C is reference to the final plan. And so that is just run through the process like a site plan. And so that would be a final site plan review.
Okay, so, and I'm looking at just the table of contents is the only way to play. So checklist for site plan. And then we talk about in 23.5, final PUD site plan. We are to understand that a final condominium plan is within the same as a checklist for the site plan.
Correct.
Okay, all right, I just needed that clarification. Okay,
And we can title 2350, we can add final condo as well in the title for 2350, if that was clarified.
well, I think when you do it with the final PUD site plan, it's just for consistency that we would know that we also have a checklist for the final condominium plan.
Okay, that would be good
Okay,
to add that.
so that was my questioning. Okay. Oh, wait.
Are there other
We get
comments
that
You can go now.
on the table of contents?
That was the only.
Oh, I have one clarification. Is the checklist synonymous with the 4 to 5 page user guide you mentioned, or is that still to come?
The user guide is still to come.
Okay,
So that doesn't need to be adopted as part of the zoning, it's just kind of a reference.
Right.
It can change at any point. So I think we can have that in the next couple of weeks.
okay, no, I just wanted to make it.
Yeah.
I wanted to maybe the checklist. Was the same.
It's like a separate document that we've just attached.
Okay.
to the PDF.
Yeah, and I still think it's an important thing. Thank you.
All right. Article 1.
One minor thing in 160D, I mentioned that there were definitions in Articles 22 and 23. But that's incorrect. They've been combined into 22. So
I see that it's violations and penalties, just so the planning commission knows, we did send this draft to the township attorney to review. I know that was something on your radar, and it was also sent to the members of the zoning board of appeals.
Is that the maximum that we can,
Fine,
find?
I'm not sure. It's a good legal question.
And that, I wanted to run that by the attorney as well, because my understanding is civil infractions always max to 500, but your marijuana ordinance included some higher fee, violations of $2,500 or something. But if that's still subject to the zoning requirements and civil infraction, I think it would be max at 500. So that's just one discrepancy I wanted to run by the attorney.
And well, you'd also like to give the judge the opportunity that if you have a subsequent offender, maybe the fine is the maximum that you can assess, but can he assess attorney fees against the offender? I'm thinking about this, the person who makes us keep going back to court to force them to do something. But I guess that's something we can run by the attorney. Can he do that? Because there are some people who do not learn quickly.
Yes, you can do that. I've done it before.
Okay,
And should that table on 1.4 be labeled 1.4 for the fee structure?
Oh, yes, that would be. Right, the fine structure should be table, 1.100.
All right. Anything else on that chapter?
What page are we up to?
We are now on page part 2, our zoning district regulation, page 2.1. So we haven't done anything and we're just starting.
Just off starting Article 2.
Yeah, so we're
Thank
just
you.
gonna go around.
Thank you.
Yes,
Question, is the abbreviations that we see in table 2.20 going to match what's on our zoning map?
they should,
They should, okay,
yes.
all right, so
Do they
that,
not?
that will be corrected.
They don't on the new map.
No, they're all here, they're all yellow.
Oh, the colors. Oh, I didn't realize, you
In
said
table 2.20, are these going to
color?
match?
the colors will not match.
They will not.
Not the color, but R1, R2, those abbreviations should be the same.
Okay, they are, I didn't know whether we were gonna try to link the two.
We have, we're working with the county and the colors, so no,
Okay, I got it.
but thank you, that's a good question.
But you've got good comments from staff on some of the color issues with the map and
I did talk to
Colors
Cindy about some of the
the
overlapping
white
lettering,
boxes that, yeah.
but we'll revisit that too. Yeah,
And we'd like to see street names back if possible.
yeah,
Yes.
Otherwise, it's.
yeah, that's real hard, especially for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Article 2,
Article 2.
other changes.
Comments and-
This is an important article with all of our, well, we get into more in Article 3, but anything else? Yes.
Under page 2.3, section 2.400, are we happy with what that says? Buildings are under single ownership or association control as development complex. I think I brought that up in the last one is, if it's under single ownership, the brewery, are we gonna say we're not gonna allow that to happen anymore?
Yeah, I was wondering about that in another section, because it doesn't allow for partnerships.
Individual activities support one another. As an example, our brewery and the auto repair would not complement each other. Articulate, whatever that word, consistent and compatible, they would not be. So I'm a little concerned with that section,
So 2.40,
principal buildings and uses.
but it doesn't mention ownership.
Is it my C?
See, yeah.
C does, collective principal use?
Okay, last way, more than principal building, more than principal use. Okay, but the brewery is only on one lot.
But isn't the auto also on that?
The auto is on the other
Aren't
side.
they, isn't there a issue? Are they,
They're changing their plans.
okay, all right. All right,
Don't
so
know that, but
therefore, but let's say that that was going to happen again. That same kind of example would come up. We would not allow that. That's what that says. We're not going to allow that.
Lots may have more than one principal building. They
Yes.
have more than one principal building and more than one principal use. When it's determined by the zoning administrator that collective principal use of a lot is permitted. So we do allow multiple, it's just a determination.
The zoning administrator shall determine that all of the following conditions are satisfied.
Okay,
The word all, that means you have to do. There's 5, all those have to meet. By having the word all there.
mhm. Okay, Dave, what do you suggest?
I can't envision a situation that this would cause a problem, aside from, it sounds like you have a local concern, there's like.
Well, there was, but no, I mean, again, you have those conditions, or something comes up, it's like, okay. If that would come up again, we're not going to allow it. Because this article, as it comes forward, would say, no, that would not be approved. You could not approve it.
So it's really that ownership situation that's a challenge.
Individual activities support one another.
That shows up in a couple other places where it doesn't allow partnerships. So John and I get together
Yeah.
and create a business, and when I get this going, we each have 50%. Don't work.
Okay,
I would,
But doesn't it provide for an appeal to the zoning administrator made it, and there to submit a both collective principally to the planning
Yeah.
commission?
you
So-
could.
Why can't people go through that?
Why put all the pressure on the zoning administrator to make that decision? Depending
I
on,
used to allow partnerships. That's
I'm really, and the conditions is what, it really, you have to look at that wording for conditions to allow you that flexibility, but as soon as you put that word all in there.
I see what you said. Shall and all. It's not
It's
for-
either, it's all or nothing.
So it should be more like the following are factors to consider in the determination.
Possibly,
Something like
possibly.
that.
That would be fine, yeah, I think. You could say these factors shall be considered rather than all. You know, 1E could be the buildings are architecturally consistent or compatible, because you might have two different buildings on one site that they complement each other, but they are not the same siding type and roof type. So I think that might, the or for that E, that would work as well.
Could be, again, if we think that as a community, that type of partnership, we want to at least review and to consider, then that's an important article.
do you want to take out all and say majority of the following?
Or just say they shall
To
be
consider.
considered, the following factors shall be considered.
I think so.
Yeah, good.
And not put a number on
Yeah, right,
on it.
I mean, yeah.
the majorities.
And we can still keep that lever there for the relief valve for the zoning administrator to send it to planning commission if they want.
Yeah.
Support.
And we could change E to just say and or.
Could be.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
No.
that was good.
Anything else in two? Mike, you noted the other places that you
Yeah.
mentioned, okay, so you'll tell us, okay. All right, Article 3, our residential district.
On the table 3.3, under use, accessory building farm, that's under all the residential, is that correct? Says permitted. The very first line item, accessory building farm, that just caught my eye.
Yeah, I thought that was.
It's saying permitted in residential.
Correct, so accessory building farm, we should actually strike permitted for R1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
That's to be consistent with the.
Yep.
Good catch.
And then accessory dwelling unit, we're only ADUs, we're only allowing in R1, is that correct? Okay,
And ag 1 and 2.
yeah,
Got a question on the page 3.1. This has come up before, and I'm just asking for insight here. Why would we encourage any particular type of business? So we're encouraging agritourism. Do we encourage restaurants? Do we encourage grocery stores? You know, it seems kind of odd for the township to take a position that want to push a certain kind of business type. I'm not saying this is a bad thing to do.
But where is this coming from? Is there text in here?
320.
I'm sorry,
But that rose out of the advisory committees.
So
It was a high recommendation
why?
because we don't have any.
Why should we?
Because
Brings
our
more
neighbors do.
business to the area.
Well,
And it's,
see, that's
it's,
my problem, John, is because somebody else.
well, yeah, but you're like a year and a
doesn't
half
mean
late.
we
This
have
has
to do it.
been talked about for a year and a half.
I've been having the problem ever since. So why would we
Right.
pick a certain business type to encourage versus other businesses? Seems kind of odd to me that
It's-
the township could be taking a position to push a certain business type. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's cool.
It's not we don't have a use. Right, Dave called agritourism. We don't have a use called that, it's more of the, is that right, Dave?
Well, agritourism is gonna be part of our marketing as well as,
Wineries.
But correct, we don't use the word agritourism.
So it's not a, right, so it's not a named use, it's more of a philosophy. Which helps Michigan communities, I mean, MDR, the Michigan Department of Agriculture even has a whole position on this, and they've included it in their farmland preservation rules that agritourism
Okay,
is
so
a
it's kind of-
method.
It's a state driven or a suggested thing. I.
It is,
That
and
helps
it's also for farmers, right?
No, I-
Because they're wanting to find ways to
I
diversify
got you.
on their farm and bring more people to agriculture.
That's what I didn't want to
Yeah,
understand.
so it's not like we're saying, gas stations or certain uses, it's more the philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah,
It is the second largest industry in the state, isn't it?
agriculture, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not random, it's
I think after
very significant.
tourism,
and this is both.
right?
This might be.
Peanut butter and
On
chocolate.
that, is there a need to define agritourism? Is there no?
Well, because
Okay.
it's not a use, right? So,
Okay, I got it.
Thanks.
yeah, no problem. I'm glad that we're talking about it. Because yes, I understand. I think your point is a good one. We don't want to call out certain things like breweries or,
Yeah. Okay. I got it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Beer City's already been used, we could go Beer Township.
We probably could. It's different.
Okay, what else? on
If
this?
they'll ever build, they couldn't build them.
Are we back to
So,
3-3 or not?
yes.
I have a suggestion, just a minor thing on formatting, on section 3.3. It kind of gives the codes here and it says not permitted. A cell marked with 2 dashes. I mean, why don't we just put N? Is that gonna be obvious to everybody what dashes mean when, you know, somebody, a businessman picks these things up? It's like, what's that mean?
Only businesswoman would be able to.
I'm
just kidding. It's gonna be one of those nights.
You can say NA.
I
think it's simple.
I think the dashes are fine.
think they're.
I think it's fine.
The only issue with that is if you add in the NP or and the table becomes visually a little bit. at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, I have no issues with this, if it's easier on the eye, or easier to understand, that's all that matters. So-
Rather than, I would rather see the dashes rather than a blank cell, so.
Oh, absolutely.
No,
Gotta have
I
something
like-
in there. Yeah,
I actually like N because to me, a dash means hasn't been decided yet.
yeah, it seems.
Seems
vague.
neutral.
Thank you.
Yes, I don't think it.
I like the dashes because then I get a quick visual and I know what I'm looking at.
But you know, it means no.
Right, I know that means no, and I
Oh,
can
you
just
did.
focus on what's allowed, and what's not.
Picture,
Okay.
outside person look at this. And
Actually, I like-
and
I like NP.
Thank you, yeah.
Would there be an informal, throw hands on that one, we can change it if you like.
I think dash to beg to an outside person, a businessman looking at this.
I like N. And
All right, show of hands, who wants that?
Well, NP.
Either N or NP.
Dashes.
All right, Carrie.
And
Done.
All right,
Thank you.
change it.
Oh,
Dash.
you're gonna have a vote for dashes?
I like the dashes.
We can do that. Okay, sorry, but there.
I missed that. Okay, what about what we have in the table?
So we're up to 3-4 yet.
No, we're on 3-3.
All right.
I have a question.
I was saying,
Oh, but go ahead.
currently we allow duplexes in four zoning districts and just R1. So I'm just wondering why we're taking it out of the other zone district.
Thank you.
It seems to lead to the sustainability section of housing.
I had the same question.
What are you defining as duplex? Family?
Dwelling two family.
Okay, thank you.
Attached. Yeah, I mean, you could have a duplex anywhere.
Typically.
Yeah, instead of farm. About just build a house and have a covered paint.
So what would you add, what would you add?
What are the current ones, Cindy?
We only have it in R1.
R1, and I would,
This draft has it just in R1, but I believe that in our current zoning, it has it in all the residential zone districts. The exception of R2.
these are A1 and A2.
I think, yeah, where we have the ADUs, right? That would make sense.
Yeah, similar. Building structure.
The general consensus to add two family for A1 and A2 as well.
I think so. Did that everyone?
That's what I would think as well.
There's an A2.
And then multifamily, so we have that in R1.
Yes, that was kind of,
Duplex.
that was received that, but only with public. Water. So R1 would allow for, and I know, there was some back and forth on this one as well, so that was one of the ones that I highlighted on my book just to get confirmation. So R1 would really be the only residential ag district that would be the most appropriate for townhouses and multifamily if they were public water and sewer.
Right.
The other option is just to keep those in C1 and 2, I believe. So,
Yeah.
but
And our current zoning ordinance, it's A1, A2, R1, not in R2. Yes, in R3. PUD and all the C1, 2, 3, nothing in industrial. And yes, in R3B, which is, I think is gonna be an R4 around. So that's what the chart says.
So I got a question along similar grounds. So you're talking dwelling multifamily. What about a dwelling multifamily that has their own water source and their own sanitation facility?
You mean a well and septic?
Yeah.
We wouldn't allow that
Why not?
because it's a multifamily building and the state, I don't believe that the county even allows multiple dwellings
So,
on a well, a single well or a residential septic system.
the ravines are on the well.
No, they're
on public water. They are now? Yeah, sorry, okay. But I mean, could you picture, I'm just thinking out loud, could you picture a 6-family apartment unit? Has their own well, has their own septic, that's not out of the.
I don't believe that that's allowed with our health department.
Really? Okay.
They'd have to have a commercial system.
Well, they've had problems with wells in the past. I just read a report about the old dump site And one of the investigations they went into is that some of the wells failed adjacent to that well site.
Okay.
And so I'm
That's a
not
problem.
surprised the county
I
is
get
just
it.
saying, we're not gonna deal, but we have the option for public water. So if a developer wants to put in multifamilies, you're gonna work with Mr. DeFranco and as to how we get water and sewer there.
I got it, okay.
Or they can work with Eagle for a
Yeah.
community system.
Yes, right,
I'm
yeah.
trying to understand.
I mean, even if it's possible, we're sort of falling back on the intent statements for the zoning districts in the master plan guidance as well, so.
Okay.
Did we resolve the
Multi-
two-family
multi-
dwelling?
The duplex, which is the two-family. Is allowed right now in A1, A2, R1, R3. And R3B.
Correct, and what we talked about are sensitive. The natural river area, which is a lot of our R2. As well as our high risk erosion and critical dune areas, which are a lot of the R4. And that we wanted to kind of be mindful of the carrying capacity of those. Kind of tenuous environmental areas. And focus the density where we have. The Blue Star Highway, our trails, other services and community facilities. It's not that existing ones wouldn't be, I mean, they would be legal conforming,
Right, but no new ones,
no new.
no new ones except in R1.
R1, A1 and E2 as well. as
Okay, so we're gonna
E2.
change that. Okay,
Yes,
okay, I'm sorry.
no, that's. What about the dimensional table? I did want to make sure that we're all aware of the one that changed in R2. Right now, R2, the minimum lot area is 65,000 square feet. So about an acre and a half. And this. It's going down to 30,000, so. Less than an acre, so just want everyone to know that will probably open up some land division opportunities.
And are we all satisfied with 750 square feet?
That was the other thing. My notes say that we were doing 600 in A1, A2 and R1. And the other ones were staying at 750. It was kind of a consensus. The rationale, I believe, that was presented by Commissioner Webster was that in the districts where we allow the ADU, that those would go down to the 600 minimum. This draft doesn't show that, and so we need to talk about it and you decide one way or the other, or whatever. So, yeah.
I just have a problem going even at 750 because you don't give people a place to store stuff. It winds up on the porch.
Yep.
So the bikes, the barbecues. the
Well, it
outdoor
excludes
furniture.
garages.
750 is a two-bedroom apartment.
Right, so I mean, unless they have a garage or a basement for storage purposes.
But the question was the 600 in the first three categories.
Right, I believe
Which
you
the
all
steering
decided that.
committee signed off on and presented. to.
I understand, and we can agree to disagree.
Right,
but
but I think it's been agreed is my point.
I think the 600 was agreed.
It was.
Mhm.
On the first three categories, the A1, A2 and R1.
Right.
I think that was the compromise because the housing committee really felt the 750 was
Right.
where we needed to be, so. I think that's way back, we kind of made this collaborative
The compromise, that's what I have here. Make sure 600 square feet excludes decks and garages.
Mhm.
Allow 600 where we have ADUs and 750 and R2, R3 and R. need to make sure the square foot includes ground floor and upper floor. 600 is for ground floor only. Someone thought that, but it doesn't. It includes any area.
Okay.
Livable area. In
It's defined.
yeah,
Okay.
the charter says livable area.
In definition is exactly how the name mentioned, without garages and decks and things like that. Okay, so accessory, it's gonna be the same difference as accessory dwelling unit, so A1, A2, and R1 would be 600. Is that correct?
We say 600, but they have to have a garage. That's not a living area, but that gives you a space to put stuff. Otherwise, if you're gonna have it sitting out in the yard. What do you think about that type of modification?
What happens?
I don't see requiring a garage. What if they don't have a
It
car?
could be a common storage area. A lot of apartments have.
Well, they can
common
put a
storage
shed up.
areas. Huh?
They can put a garden shed up, can't they?
Really? In an apartment? No, you can't.
Oh, you see in an apartment?
No, these
No,
are,
it's our
this is a house.
Okay, I'm sorry. Would you rather have sheds or a decent sized house?
But you're suggesting that it's mandatory, either a shed or a garage is mandatory so that these,
Well, if you want
these
the
will work.
600 number, if you want to have that small living area, fine.
It's not.
You have some sort of storage area of a certain amount of square feet. So if you want to put the out of season equipment, the bikes, the rest of it, it's not, I mean, where do you put a bicycle with a 600 square foot house?
No.
You're gonna be, like Seinfeld and you have it hanging in your second bedroom? No.
Sure.
I lived in Manhattan. We kept bikes in the apartment.
And you leave that up to the homeowner and how they're gonna do that.
We can't
I don't.
dictate
It's
lifestyle.
gonna end up out in the yard.
I see your point.
Not in December.
I'm just offering, I would keep it at 750. If you wanna go down to 600, just make sure they have some sort of storage there.
Shared or individual.
Yeah,
Well, the 600 has been agreed to over and over, so I don't think we should look at a backwards way to max that out.
Square foot.
well, let's have a show of hands. These people are happy with 600 with no other requirements.
I'm okay with 600.
You gotta live in it.
Yeah, all right. What else?
On this chart, I know it comes up later, and Cindy and I have been talking about this, at the very bottom with the setbacks, Kalamazoo River versus other water bodies. We're not quite sure why there's a differentiation. Because other water bodies would include Lake Michigan, a lot of township properties are in Lake Michigan. Or was it written more about, we just want clarification, and again, what's the reasoning for the difference, and do we need a difference moving forward?
And what does the Kalamazoo River include?
Right, does that include Silver Lake? People think that's a separate body. I tend to think it's a part of the lake, but.
And the river.
So do we need to call those out, like, as not only Kalamazoo River, but those other bodies that we feel the 75-foot, like Lake Michigan, Silver Lake, and call them out specifically and add them underneath that Kalamazoo River and then other bodies would be, okay, we have a man-made, pond, waterway, and that could be 40 feet.
Well, I'm thinking like Goshorn Lake.
Well, and creeks, we've got several.
Beach Creek.
Or we just have one number for all of that,
Well,
right? Is that
I
what you mean?
tend to like,
You want 75 feet for all of them?
I would say 40.
No, here's the problem, the river can change so much. And people who want to buy a lot right now. And if the water goes back to where it was 4 years ago, the river was approximately 25 inches higher 4 years ago. So your 40 feet could be 2 feet real quickly. Because of that, the way the water levels change because of Lake Michigan.
Right.
So you want at least 75 feet for anything connected to that waterway, which is the Kalamazoo River, Silver Lake, and Lake Michigan. If you build within 75 feet of water, you are asking for trouble unless you're on a granite bluff.
Mhm.
Because, Mother Nature can decide that she doesn't want your house there.
It does measure to the ordinary high water mark, which is not the same as the water's edge. So the water's edge could change, but the ordinary high water mark stays the same. And there are floodplain regulations that you cannot build in the floodplain. So you would have to consult your FEMA maps to see if it's in the floodplain or not. So there are protections against.
I just think that it should be Kalamazoo River, then specified Silver Lake and add Lake Michigan. Because that's, if you're gonna signal out that area, it should be all three of them, so there's no question.
And Kalamazoo Lake.
Yeah,
But this is saying Lake Michigan would be for
pardon me?
The way it's written.
Yeah, so,
the chart I'm looking at, yeah.
right, so by adding them, those larger bodies of water are gonna be 75 feet, everybody else could be 40.
Yeah, because if you have a man-made lake, you have some level of control over that height of that. You can drain it, you can choose to divert water to it. You don't have that type of option with the Great Lakes.
Does anybody know that when we had the higher water levels a couple of years ago, was it the Goshaw Lake remained relatively the same?
Except for the 2 years during COVID when beavers dammed up.
Oh, wow.
No, but that was bad.
I believe that, but that's, yeah, that's different.
It was dealt with eventually, but it was.
Would that work, Cindy? We would add those
If you
bodies
added those bodies.
and that along with Kalamazoo River and then others. I would be fine with that.
So Silver Lake, Kalamazoo Lake and Lake Michigan. And Kalamazoo River at 75 and then the other ones at 40.
Seems very makes sense.
Kalamazoo River, Silver Lake, Lake Michigan.
And Kalamazoo Lake.
So township property.
Yes. Riverside. Riverside Drive is on that,
Oh, they're on the.
just kind of variance.
We had the yellow, the major street right away. Was that highlighted to talk about?
It's the word front yard and or the word front.
Oh, right.
It would assume, but that's the front yard. But
The first one should say front, yeah.
Instead of right away, it should say front.
front, like the next one below it, front minor road,
Yep.
it says front.
And then the two say street.
So we,
The rest of them.
Just the
say
word
side,
front
side,
needs to
side.
say major street right away front.
okay, so we're just adding the front in that first.
Yeah,
Front.
you did bring that up before. Maybe that wasn't.
But we shouldn't have to assume that that means the yard. Should
Right.
know that
Right,
it's-
especially since we said houses don't have this face front.
So the street side also front or is it?
If you have a water, it's the, if you have a waterfront, the waterfront is the front. Not the street side,
But not anymore. It's not,
not anymore.
it never was. I don't.
Some communities do that, it just causes a lot of confusion when you're calling out water from your front yard. You know, the front yard.
And that would be a change from what's in the
I
ordinance.
was at house
I
with
don't
4
think-
front yards.
Right.
I lived on Lake St. Clair with a canal on the side of me and a canal behind me. So,
Front yard.
I had to go to the ZBA because according to the zoning, I had 4 front yards.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Oh,
Well, that's been fixed.
So when we say street side, that would be the corner side,
Be the wrong side.
the long.
yeah,
The
so
water
your
side.
secondary frontage is your street side. And
Anything else on that, these 2 pages, the next page, there's something in green, the minimum lot area.
What did we do? 340B?
Oh, I'm sorry. 340B.
Some of the same things, like the minimum dwelling unit area. And then the, two at the bottom.
so it'd be 600 for these then.
Yeah,
But this was just for multi-families in town. according to the.
Well, a multifamily lot building, okay, so it includes building, okay. Thank you.
And then
Looks like this table does have fronts major, front minor.
Right,
Yes.
okay,
One and the other two. So,
And the same thing with the challenging.
so it's just adding the blank stuff.
Yeah.
Okay,
I guess my thought about the density and lot size per unit, that is fairly, when this table is replicated from what we previously had in the PUD chapter, because previously we're saying, oh, you can only do these types of housing types in a PUD and also commercial. So now that we added in I guess, let's see here. Oh, so you, yeah, we're adding it in for one.
right,
18 per acre for townhouses and 24 per acre multifamily. That's a fairly high density for an R1 zoning district, where I wouldn't have any issues with that for C districts, because it's more of a, yeah. I mean, we may want to just look at, maybe Lene and I can take a look at that and just assess if we should go a lower density for both those in R1. Study that a bit more.
Because this whole area is R1. I mean, we're saying, you know, the lot next to these whole neighborhoods could have a 16-unit multifamily building.
so where do these numbers come from? They just pop up at this round, or were they part of the discussion along the way, or?
They were in earlier drafts for commercial and PUD.
Okay.
And just to allow for it's kind of I would say it's a, you know, a suburb. It's not a city density necessarily, but I think it's suburban or higher density. It's gonna be more your small city rather than your Grand Rapids or Kansas. I think like Lene talked a little bit about East Grand Rapids. There's a couple townhouse products there and multifamily that's kind of what they were in the range of in the village area for East Grand Rapids. So just as an example of that type of density. Whereas in Kalamazoo or Grand Rapids, you're gonna see something much higher in multifamily.
So we might be ratcheting that back a little bit after we take a look at some of the, I think what we'll do is we'll look at some of the lot areas and take some examples of the density around here in the R1 so that it's not such a big jump.
So what is it now?
That's what we're gonna look at.
Okay,
Yeah.
you just think we got this far and these numbers are in here, they need to come out of.
It's what we had before for in drafts for
Okay.
commercial, but since we're in the residential districts, we do believe it's too high. Forty C, in 40C.
So my main question, I'm not sure if we covered this or not, but having a minimum lot area for non-residential buildings in residential zoning districts. And so basically what we're saying is that in Ag 1 and 2, you need to have a conforming lot size to be able to put in one of the few non-residential uses that are permitted in A1 and 2.
A school or a church.
In school, church. There's gonna be very few, but and then other than, you know, 1 acre for the other districts, and the other districts are all between 20 and 40,000 square feet, depending on water sewer. But it just gives a little bit of a larger lot to be able to accommodate a non-residential use and the greater setbacks that come with it.
In that table, don't forget to add the other water bodies along with the Kalamazoo River
Mhm.
for consistency.
But are we good with the first box? So are these numbers, Dave, what you're suggesting, or are you suggesting they be looked at again?
I think it makes sense. I think I wouldn't go any lower than those.
Okay.
All right, anything on section 3.5? You know, Jackie, this was the section you. Or did you have something on that table?
On 3.4, I had a question. Maximum building height. It says 40 feet. That's for non-residential buildings. Has that changed? Was it 35 before?
I think it was 5 before, but I don't have that book with me.
Yeah, I don't either.
What are you looking for?
Maximum building height
And what,
listed as 40 in table 3.4C. Non-residential buildings in a residential zone.
where would I find that in the book?
Page 37.
Was that under- was that certain
The old
uses
one.
that was
Where would I find it in the old
allowed
ordinance?
as 40 feet rather than 10?
Nobody knows.
No, no,
In the heights.
I can go get my book.
I was just thinking that we've always worked with 35, even commercial, so it surprised me to see 40,
Would it be under the commercial district? Yeah.
maybe.
I think we can keep it at 31. Because we do allow something like a spire or, you know, those other appurtenances to see taller than 35.
Yes, no, well, I can tell you in A1, it says no building in an A1 agricultural zone district shall have a building height exceeding 35 feet. So I don't know if that's consistent, but I can tell you
That's an act
in ag,
in this.
looks like 35 feet in A2.
I think it's 35.
Did we change it back to 35? Everybody agree?
I think.
I would tell you that, you know, I've looked at 3 and they're all 35, so.
Okay.
I feel 35 coming up.
35 it is. Right, so then move on to 3.5. Holidays looking for
I think she went to get the old,
the old book, right?
yeah.
Should somebody go tell her that we agreed on 35?
Yeah.
Still need to book anyway.
Yeah, we're gonna use it again. I imagine. Cindy?
The primary siding materials, I would just add metal.
And where is that? I'm sorry.
It's B,
Other
3.50B.
You
Oh,
want to add metal versus and keep
yes.
other materials as approved, you wouldn't see that as.
I wouldn't see a reason for somebody to go to the planning commission to put aluminum siding.
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah, that should be there.
Yeah.
writing down.
Makes sense.
Well, like corrugated metal.
Just metals, aluminum sidings in it.
Yeah.
Isn't
Open up the next idea.
Not very much.
Vinyl, people, that's-
I suppose the corrugated metal could kind of be the farmhouse.
Yeah, a lot of times you can see that in the accounts now.
Got it. Put that in there. Okay.
That's a durable material.
3.8.
So according to this, glass wouldn't be permitted.
It is, in this case.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, 6 and 7. we have.
Oh, thank you.
And PC can approve levels. God, laying down some other.
I know glass was added in the notes. Was glass envisioned as being a siding material? Sure.
It can be.
Glass house, Joel Johnson.
Yep, bingo.
Yeah, that's what we did talk about.
I think I brought that up.
It's a classic.
There's one in Saugatuck on Pleasant Street that's very close to
Yeah,
that.
no kidding.
Mhm.
That's what I was thinking
Yeah.
about. Yep. But it's a curtain wall panel system that is used architecturally and it can be used in a home too. And it can be opaque.
Anything else on 3.8, 3.9?
I have a question on 3.8 and the 3.5 chart. I'm just throwing this out because I'm rereading this now. Are those minimums maybe too low?
Where are you? Michelle?
Page 3.8, table 3.5. Minimum number of house models. So you have a development of 20 homes and there's just, you could have the Cape Cod or the Italian. Isn't that what that means? I'd like to see more variety. Why don't we just up these numbers? Well, at first I thought this was maximum and I was like, wait.
What's the downside to, well, that's minimum.
Right,
So they have to give you, if you're gonna put 20 buildings in there, you've gotta have at least 2 models.
yeah, 10 of each.
So you're saying that you want a third or fourth option for each one
Yeah.
of those?
I'm just throwing that out there, makes it more interesting.
Sure.
Or eclectic.
Any other thoughts?
Sure.
Should we increase that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Downside to that is they're more expensive.
That's not our problem.
Wait, what's more expensive?
Well,
The design's more
that's
expensive.
also one thing I've been trying to focus on is trying to keep construction costs down to allow people to move in.
They got marketed.
So, yeah.
Could make it more enticing, to probably make more money that way.
There you go.
So what do we do? 4, 6, 8, 10?
Yep.
and sometimes that just means putting a garage on another side, right? So it can be,
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think
I
it's,
want to review that.
So within the road then. So I heard 4, 6, 8, 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Double everything.
Just double them.
Okay. Well, then we'll need to change just the first size development row. 4, 6, 8, 10. Maybe we can divide that maybe to from 10 to 20 would be 4.
Oh, why are you doing that?
Well, we got a development of 2 houses, we can only have 2 different. So I think we need a
10 to 20,
More,
21 to 30.
Oh, I see.
So maybe we do, what if it was 2 to 10? And with 2 models,
Oh,
we just added another road.
so you want to double all the categories?
Well, we are, but we would need, the 2 to 10 buildings would be 10 to 20, or. So 11 to 20 if it's the same. So 2 to 10 could be 2 styles,
Mhm.
or we can break it up further.
It's making it more complicated or wait a minute.
Because if you have only 2 houses.
You can't.
You can't have 4 styles.
Oh, gotcha.
So we just have to fix
Make
that
them
first column.
townhouses. All right,
Yeah.
never mind.
We make it.
All right, I wasn't trying to make more work, but I guess I see your point.
We need to change the models to styles. Models can mean.
Yeah, you're right.
That threw me too, like,
You'll
Yeah.
have multiple characteristics that could clearly distinguish it from the other house models, such as different exterior materials, plans, placement, architectural style, number of stories, and or building space.
Okay.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And then do you think that we could have something similar for our multifamily? I mean, what if you have would it? I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, well, it's the same.
Are you talking like a WD? Like,
If you have multifamily buildings.
You don't want to look like a prison.
First project.
Well,
That's a good point.
but there are beautiful developments where they have like 4 units that are all the same, but if they're all exquisitely done with good landscaping, it doesn't jar the eye to have 4 similar four same models of
Sure.
multiple homes.
You're right.
On, being presented, I wouldn't require them to build me four different structures
I
for
agree.
those four units, not if it's going to be a cohesive. And it's gonna be maintained as a unit, so that one's not gonna fall apart.
Okay.
Yep. That's a point.
So with the new numbers, does that affect our feelings on 3C?
That's like,
Which section?
I don't think you want to
Well, think like
do the same
3C.
next to each other.
With the townhome? Or which part? Three?
Where we're at.
Oh, no more than
Yeah.
two.
No more there. I'm just wondering if that's still necessary or not, but I don't know.
Probably because you're trying to stop the row house building that we,
Yeah.
where they would just
I'd
build
leave
the
it.
same house up and down the street.
Right, C. You probably say C would be no more than two of the same house model. Or when we require four or more house models, so we no longer have the.
Right, no, that's true, at least, yeah, that makes sense, okay.
I think you want to delete that word are that required. As opposed to that are. Oh, never mind. Never mind.
I think you pick out R and say require, that require.
Yeah.
It's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Right, I would just take out R
R.
and make the tense of require, that require. Four or more house
That
models.
requires it
Yeah,
instead of required.
that are required.
So that require 3, 4 or more.
I have a question. As we go back to C, C2C. So under the garages with all new townhome buildings should be served by rear alleys or driveways directed to the rear of the property. I'm just wondering what purpose are we trying to serve with that? Because I'm trying to imagine in my head, are we just trying to keep the garages out of the front? That's the idea. I mean, is it, or another way that if, is maybe in a townhome situation, maybe you wouldn't have garages? Is there possible you'd have a parking carport structure or, shelter? Where I'm just trying to think of, because now they're being provided by alleyways in the back. I'm just thinking through my head, would that prevent somebody from doing some kind of different style that would agree with what we're trying to accomplish here, but we've now stated that it has to be served by an alleyway in the back.
It's kind of prescriptive. Or a rear driveway.
Or rear, maybe.
I think some of the point is that, a townhouse building is to be narrow in general. And so if they have a too tall garage, the facade might be a garage and a front door. And so that it's more of a
Right.
kind of a setting.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I wouldn't want to see that either. If you had, 6 townhomes in a row and then all you had was garage door, a garage door and then a man door and a garage door and a man door.
What if you have a?
But I'm just trying to say,
Group of garages.
I'm just thinking that if you had the building, the carport building off to the side and, and everybody parked and then they walked to their unit and.
I think we would still be able to do that because that would be one of access on one of those driveways that would kind of be separate from the townhouse building.
Okay,
Yeah, so
okay,
that would be fine to do it that way. I think it's just the precluding the frontage of just the garage and driveway openings.
I figured that's what it was there for, and that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to prohibit,
Some other
some other way of,
configuration.
yeah, but if there's other ways to accommodate it, then.
Yeah, I
That's
think
fine.
that would work. Cause you see that a lot, those carports, and now they're putting the solar panels on. Anything else, page 3839? Three 311.
I'm making the assumption that whoever's looking at this for the open space development, that they're happy with that. I mean, as I read it, I'm like, oh, I can't speak to this. So is our planner and whoever is happy with how that is stated?
Good punt.
Started reading, I'm like.
It does get thick at times.
Yeah.
And we're somewhat limited by what the act provides
Okay.
for, so, but this does give some adds on some decision-making criteria in open space requirements. But for instance, the open space development option, it's from 15% to 60%. That's your range of preserved land, and you can reduce width, size, so on. So we couldn't say that you couldn't reduce width or something like that. We have to allow what the act allows.
Okay,
So,
as long as you guys are happy.
So if somebody has a parcel of land, let's say at 10 acres, and 2/3 of it is unbuildable. I don't want to be forced into letting them use an open space, and we're gonna leave this part open and free to nature. It's unbuildable anyway, so we want to use every last square foot of the buildable footprint. So we still have the option to say, no, you can't just dump all the land that you can't use into the non-building envelope.
Yeah. In, on page 3-12,
Yeah,
in FI, 50% of the area of lakes, detention ponds, wetlands. Only 50% of those areas could count towards your open space.
okay, so he's.
And that's
Everybody was in there.
that's similar to the open space provision for the PUD in terms of what we count.
That's
I think part of that conversation was when we allow for some credit so that you're not filling in a wetland, you're reflecting. To make something buildable.
Page 314. All right, moving into the commercial districts.
I do have a question on D, light industrial. Are residential homes being allowed in industrial now? Being built?
Hold on.
It doesn't mention.
Accessory dwelling units.
Oh, I wasn't even
Are you
looking
talking
at
about
this.
on page 4.2?
Yes,
The
and I
top?
wasn't even looking at the chart, I'm sorry.
Oh. Yeah, I was looking at the yellow.
I was too. Okay,
Suppose with that, we may, since we're allowing residential, we may want to. Update the intent statement just to say that. Once we've limited residential options are. Accommodated as well. I think maybe we just somehow recognize that we are allowing residential
okay.
in light industrial as well.
And certainly.
I remember that was discussed a lot at the meeting at the library. I don't know if you were there with the heads of the different advisory committees.
I was not.
Yeah, there were examples like, I guess, John Vanderleek brought up.
Okay,
Well, the thing is, in regards to light, is that where we would like to, permit, live work type,
Sure.
settings?
Yep.
So I,
Yeah,
as
that's-
long as the chart or whatever, without, if we don't want to use the word live work,
Right.
but that would allow that type of activity.
Does
Does it do that?
Occupation.
yeah,
Okay.
That was.
major and minor allowed.
Okay.
But then we banned the word, so.
So one new one was the specialty accommodations, so. We had talked about,
I like your definition.
Or the year, so things like that, so. define special needs accommodations to
Yeah.
accommodate all those various creative ways that we accommodate guests. So
Yes.
visitors and tourists. One thing I wanted to just confirm again, under retail, just want to make sure that everyone's comfortable with convenience store, grocery store, and then the different categories of.
Yeah, where are you?
I like that definition too. Page
Right,
4.
Page 4, at the bottom.
No, you're racing ahead. 2 pages behind.
I like that.
We can jump back if we need to be, but
So I'm sorry, what was your question, Dave?
under retail uses. on the
Right,
bottom,
at the bottom, yeah.
I just want to make sure everyone was comfortable with we added a convenience store, grocery store, both those have now been defined. And then we have different square footage categories for retail sales. So
Okay.
up to 5,000 allowed in all districts, 5 to 10 only in C3, and then over 10 only in industrial.
So
Water and sewer. That's in Friends. So my industrial has to have water and sewer. If not, that doesn't, it's not permitted.
For retail?
Yeah.
So in retail uses, why do we allow grocery stores in C1, C2 and 3, and we don't allow convenience stores? I don't get it.
I'm gonna tell you that the convenience store probably is Dollar General.
No, you can't.
No, I'm saying to you,
That's an example.
it's an example. Dollar General type.
I'd like to take this a little bit wider.
Yeah, that is good.
I had conversations today. It's just beyond me. I don't see how we can have a difference between what is convenience and what is grocery
Okay.
in this day and age. I go into Dollar General and they're full of fruits and vegetables. They may not be the best, but they're
That's
there.
when people.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think that's.
And Family
reasonable.
Fair sells, Halloween costumes. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we're past that.
It's a matter of scale.
Right. Yeah, size, that's a different issue. I agree, but I don't think we need that.
So you want,
I want to take them out entirely and
Or-
just deal with it.
Or come
as
up with a
retail.
word for both,
Yeah,
yes.
come up with a word for both.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just say grocery and convenience. What's it?
I think of a C store as it's attached to a gas station. Or,
No.
where you go and you get.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a convenience store
That's an
in my
example.
mind. You stop in and then you go and you grab something because you're driving down the road and you need a snack or you need something to drink. You go in and you grab something, it's convenient, it's there. I think anything above and beyond that, I feel like that falls into more of probably more like what John's saying, like.
Like a Dollar General, like a grocery, or
Yeah,
a retail.
But I think you control that by the square footage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So in these Wawa.
It's up to 5,000. I think when they came in here, they were looking at 11,000 square feet for a convenience store. This is not a convenience store.
so as the bottom line is we want to strike convenience store. We want to strike grocery store. And just keep the retail sales and define it by square feet.
Yeah.
And then, and leave it at
I
that.
think it's a lot
Let
bigger.
the size dictate.
I'm just making sure I'm clear.
No,
And then therefore we would strike in the definitions, convenience and grocery store, we would strike it.
There you go. So
It
you
doesn't
have
matter.
Dollar General and C3.
store's a store.
So it's a start.
Okay, so what are we gonna do now? I need to be clear on what we're gonna do. We're gonna strike convenience store. We're not gonna use that word. We're not going to define it. We're just taking it out. Is that,
Yes.
Yes.
same with grocery store?
Yep.
And then it's all fall and we're happy with retail sales, the way they have it listed in regards to where they're allowed.
And are those 3 sizes adequate?
Correct.
We don't need a fourth or.
And allow them.
You'll have discount retailers in C3 with those square footages, so just so you're aware, I know that was big.
Oh, okay.
Bigger ones.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's,
Those are gonna usually range from 8,000 to 12,000, 8,000 to 12,000 square feet. But it's in C3 year-old.
And then mixed use residential, should that be included in industrial?
Right.
It's the same table, but right above retail,
Oh, okay.
based on,
greenhouse and nursery.
I don't know,
Let's see.
mixed use residential.
Well, you were talking about live work. I don't know if that,
No, I was mixed use with, in what how it's used, I believe. You have a retail store below and then you have a residence above.
Yeah.
That's what mixed use residential is.
so that
At least
doesn't,
that's, unless they're changing, unless that's
that's
changed.
that's the definition of it.
Is that the definition back and back?
It is.
Yeah, it's a dwelling attached to a commercial building.
Yeah.
On an upper floor.
Those two squares were left blank. I just wondered
Oh, you're right.
across from mixed use
So-
residential.
I don't know that we were putting that in industrial.
But yet we're allowing some residential and industrial.
Yeah, yeah, like a
Kind of
detached
contradicts,
residential.
right?
You can still do your home occupation.
I mean. You guys are really allowing for a lot of non-industrial uses in your industrial district.
Mhm.
Based because of that, you probably wouldn't have any issues with adding a mixed use residential industrial there. Because you're allowing for offices, residential. Home-based businesses,
Storage.
so you're allowing a lot and even retail sales, so. I suppose if those are allowed, you could also allow for mixed use residential, I don't see a major concern with that.
And what was your thought on C3? It's just blank, not. For mixed use.
Yeah, I think that they're, right now, there should be dashes there, but.
Okay.
they're under.
It becomes, okay. But we'll allow it in industrial.
So add Ps there for mixed use residential in C3 and I1.
Oh,
Well,
C3, I don't know.
we haven't decided on C3.
Okay.
I don't know, I don't know. What are our thoughts? But we did say yes to industrial.
Well, we allow multiple family. In C3, I don't know why we wouldn't allow.
Then I think it should be
Yeah.
permitted across the
Okay.
board.
Sorry,
Trying to promote
that's
housing,
true.
right?
Yep.
And then Dave, you'll take convenience and grocery out of the back.
After we make
Don't forget the
food.
definition. Thank you. Okay.
If we're, any other land use questions for on the next table?
A vehicle sale and rental is not allowed in C1. And then the sell as
Oh, that's a blank.
blank, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
assuming that means it's not allowed.
Not allowed.
Yes, yeah, that
Okay,
means.
okay.
Maybe that's a good reason why we'll put NP now, so we can see exactly.
There you go, that's right.
If there's a blank cell, we know there's a problem. Um. For table 440A,
Mhm.
we had a varying setback, side and rear setback, depending on if you're adjacent to another commercial industrial district or if you're adjacent to a residential ag district.
Yeah.
In C1 and C2, you don't have any distinction, they're 20 feet. In any case, when we get to C3, we have a greater rear setback. When you have residential zoning district behind you. And then for industrial though. It's all the same, 15 side and 25 rear, so. That kind of stuck out to me a bit as being,
Too little?
yeah,
Too
yeah,
small?
and the fact that the setbacks were the same for industrial side and rear. whether you're adjacent to non-commercial or, I'm sorry, non-residential or residential zoning district.
Do you think it should be
I
increased to
feel like it
30?
used to be 100.
I don't,
That going up to 100, is that something that seems reasonable?
Probably not for light industrial, if you might be more. Okay. Well, and I guess the other thing too, one other thing, we have a buffering requirement in Article 11. Okay, our buffering requirement is 25 feet, so 25, the first 25 feet has to be undisturbed and planted. So in industrial right away, those 15-foot setbacks should probably be increased to 25, just to correspond to the buffer width, so I would probably change those for sure. But you might want to consider a greater side and rear setback for when you're abutting Article 3 districts. Or you could just say that the vegetative buffers is going to satisfy compatibility issues.
I think numbers are better when you have a number rather than keeping it open. So whatever you would recommend, I would go with it. I mean,
So next to Article 3, where we've got 28, 20, 30, 15. Would you double that, or what's your feeling?
I think side and rear for industrial, I think would make sense at 50.
50 across the board then?
Only ones abutting another commercial or industrial district. I'm sorry, 50 when abutting an A or R district. So which is an Article 3 district in this table.
So we would go from 20 to 50 on the Article 3 for both side and rear.
Well, just for I1, 15 to 50 and then 25 to 50.
oh,
Dave, forgive me for asking this, but why are we using Article 4 and Article 3 versus zoning?
Well, in a way it does. Article 3 means A1, A2, R1 through R4. We can say that specifically. It just
Well, where in here does it say what you just said to me?
Article 4 districts would be the district regulated by Article 4.
commercial and industrial, or
I think from a person who's trying to understand it, I think it'd be better to do the districts.
We can do that. So easy enough.
I think that would be easier to understand.
so then in the I1 column, when it goes to the abutting the residential, the rear, the side and the rear should change to 50. Is that what we're saying?
But then you also have to consider that we are now allowing for residential uses in industrial.
Right.
And maybe that's excessive for a residential use.
Yeah, but it's a residential use, not a district. So in other words, it's not a neighborhood. So again, as a single individual, so it's not a district. It's
Right, right.
a single lot.
So
but
if
it
you-
does say non-residential building.
That I guess that's how I would see the difference.
So even if a mixed use building went in an industrial, if it was abutting an R1 district, you would be okay with the 50 feet.
Actually,
Yeah.
Jackie, you just called it out correctly. This table does refer to non-residential principal and accessory, and so we do actually have different setbacks on the next page. So I apologize. Skipping forward, that's the next page. We do have that
Residential.
specific setbacks for single family, two family, townhouse, and multifamily. In all of our C or I districts.
But coming back to then 4.40, you would still raise that 15 under I1 to what?
50.
50?
Yeah, 15 to 50 and 25 to 50, I think would make sense.
All right,
And then the 15 to 25. Because we can't go lower than 25 because our buffer is 25, right? So, okay. And then for C1 and C2, I think the uses are not as intense, so you probably don't need to have a varying setback based on your adjacent land use, so I'm okay with those being the same. C3 has a greater rear setback, and I think that's in the current zoning ordinance, I believe. Of 50 feet, and I think that makes sense, because that's comparable to I district, and typically in most cases, you're gonna have residential behind a commercial industrial district. Usually not gonna have side by side a residential district and an industrial. So I think the 50 there is good. I mean, you might want to consider raising that 30 to 50 as well for side abutting Article 3 districts, which is side abutting A1, A2, and the R's.
Getting a little confusing from law. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys to figure it out.
I think it's okay as is, but
It's a lot. I don't know. They all sound
I got
excessive to
lost
me, so.
Several discussions ago.
it would change the industrial for now, and if anybody wants to go back to that at a future date, good.
Okay.
That was, yeah. So take us on.
The 25, 50, 50, list the districts, add the other water bodies.
Yes, yes,
Same on 4-40.
yes.
Any other changes on that table 4.40B for the residential uses that we allow in these districts?
I had a question on, and maybe I'm just looking at this backwards, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, where minimum lot width without public water and sewer square foot is 40, and then the minimum lot width with public water and sewer is 125.
Oh, right.
Aren't those backwards?
Should be, it is, seems backwards, yeah. The numbers are,
Right,
yeah,
that's,
Yes, that's correct. So,
Okay. Reverse
and then
the
further up for the townhouses, multifamily, I think it's,
same thing.
that's correct. So just the 40 and the 125, the 50 and 125 will switch.
Okay.
And in this chart, what's the reasoning for the minimum dwelling unit area to be 750, not 6?
Well, we've been changing all of those, so I think for this one, we do the same thing.
So keep taking
Yeah,
6.
correct. So this table can be really comparable to the residential. Table 340. 340B. So we'd have 600 there as well.
Okay, thanks.
It's the maximum lot coverage. That's 50% for single family. I don't know why I thought it was 40%. Maximum lot coverage for a single family. Is that currently 40%?
we want to keep it where it is currently.
Right. Oh,
Yeah, we're at 40 for single family. So we should change that 40. And two family was at 42.
Oh,
The only comment on that is that we're allowing for much smaller lot sizes because this is in our C districts. So it's really a more urban atmosphere there. So with a smaller district, you might want to increase the lot coverage
that's a good point.
to keep that at 50 rather than knocking it down to 40, just because the lot sizes are so much smaller.
Okay.
It is a small lot. 5,000 square feet.
So we're keeping those numbers now at 50 and 60 as presented, rather than dropping down to 40.
Right.
But that's
That's what I heard.
what I heard.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
I guess I have a question. If we have somebody wanting to do a land division in our commercial or industrial districts, should we have a minimum lot area? And maybe we do somewhere else, but just a general minimum lot area? Because we won't know what the end use is per se. I mean, I get the, if you had a house on it or two-family townhouse, but say someone just had a 5-acre lot and they wanted to create smaller commercial or industrial lots, what would be the minimum lot size?
For industrial would be 30,000. For non-residential, and then 30,000 single family without.
Okay. So we would go to the table.
Yeah, but then, I mean, it is correct. Based on the different land uses, there's gonna be different minimum lot sizes, so. But for, if it's gonna be non-residential, it's 30,000, if you're cutting up residential lots, it's gonna be.
Would it be helpful to? Guess I wanna think about that a little bit.
I think I know what you're
Do you
getting
know
at,
what
is if you do a lot, land division, you're going to limit your uses based on how big you made that lot.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
You know, otherwise you're saying that a residential, any residential product needs to meet an industrial lot size. And since you're allowing for all these various residential, mixed use, multifamily and industrial, there has to be a varying level of minimum lot sizes. If it was just a pure industrial district, this wouldn't be a conversation, so.
Right.
That's why when you're adding in various other land uses, making really these mixed use districts in a way, you have to consider.
Could we just
variety
stick,
of lot sizes.
could we just stick with the lot sizes that we have? For
residential.
for non-residential and apply them to residential
In the industrial sector.
in the industrial and commercial districts? And then, I mean, when it comes to density, of course, we could have different numbers there. Like 5,000 per lot or per single family unit, or 2-family, 3,000 per dwelling unit. you know, have density numbers, but keep the lot sizes consistent regardless of the use.
Do you risk creating a community where you don't have a plan? So this is going to be a residential, this is going to be a commercial, and this is going to be our industrial. And that you're saying this is our industrial, but it's not really our industrial, because if you want to put a house there, we're going to let you chop it up even smaller. And is that really promoting growth, or are we just losing control over where we have? I mean, we set aside an industrial, we set aside a commercial, we set aside a residential. If you keep mixing that up so much, you lose that identifying part of your community that we want to have a residential area here.
Why is that important? Well, I'm thinking of the use case, to put myself in a position. I want to have a small little factory, little assembly, and I want to have offer to my key employees 3 or 4 condos on the property, and I'll develop them, and I'm going to have them as alternatives for my employees, or I might choose to live in one. And brother-in-law, who's my partner, is going to live in the other one. We're going to be right on site. So, you know, it could be an opportunity.
Yeah, no, when we wouldn't want to preclude that, and I think that's a perfect PUD type of
Yeah.
situation where we would look at it. Ken, I think that I mean, it's a philosophical question, right? And we've gone through this where we've talked about wanting to open up more housing opportunities in the township and mixing of uses. So I think that there is that direction to not have these single use districts per se.
Well,
I
at
also-
one time you could build anything anywhere. That's why they came up with something.
Right, so
So if you know, it's a pendulum. So if
exactly.
you go too far, if we swing back too far too quickly, we may create the same chaos, which is why they went to zoning in the first place.
Well, that was a point I wanted to just bring up related to our industrial areas, and I think we can. I understand why we want to bring the idea of live work,
Yes,
okay? I am feeling a little concerned because once we lose our industrial to other uses, it's very hard to rezone to industrial somewhere else, because those can be intensive uses. I also recognize that we don't have utilities in a lot of our industrial area, and so it makes it hard for manufacturers or, you know, those bigger employer type of businesses to come in. But I am a little concerned that if we start, if we swing too far, I guess, to use that phrase, that we're gonna lose those locations where bigger employers might come in. And then we have all this housing, but we still have people having to drive far for jobs, which is also an affordability concern.
Right.
So I don't mean to like bring up a bigger philosophy here, and I know we've talked about it many times, but it's just
Maybe one distinction on A is
think about.
and thinking out loud here. So you got a property, commercial, and someone and build a factory or something. And within that commercial property, it's allowed if the developer of the commercial property would choose to put a couple of residences in there. Not saying that you would have a separate residential development on a commercial property. It's at the developer who's doing the commercial stuff, at his or her discretion to say, oh, I'd like to have a couple of apartments next to my little factory for my couple of my employees or something like that. So,
I think that's great. The problem is if the next lot goes to an industrial use.
Yeah.
That has an odor issue.
no,
So, I mean, if you know, we have industrial because there are some operations that have either odors or sounds as part of their operation. And if, so the fact that I just don't want somebody coming here and say, well, you allow me to put these 3 apartments on it. And then this factory went in next door and they're stamping till 2 o'clock in the morning. And my people can't get any sleep.
Isn't that the risk you take them?
Well, all right, so as long as he understands that.
That's fields up.
That's right, just like you move into an ag.
It's like building a.
You
one in
get
a lot
smells.
in a manufacturing
Yeah.
area.
You may have a pig farm next to you.
Yeah, beware.
Well, you know,
I think you can have
well,
that
it
already.
comes back to that, we have an accessory apartments in association with the business.
That's in our old one.
Yes, so then therefore, would something to that effect is that if you want to put a residence in, you know, a live work is an example, but that has to be, that person has to be associated with that business.
Yeah.
So the same with, you know, your example, Mike, of a factory and you want to put some housing in for your employers, but those employees have to be associated with the business.
So we talked about that, Dave and I talked about that too,
Okay.
and it just, the more we played it out, the more difficult it seemed to be long-term.
Okay.
When it comes to enforcement, when it comes to.
Just how we ever know.
monitoring. But we did talk about it,
Yeah.
and yeah,
That's how you would solve that issue, but
yeah. and
help
like,
solve that issue.
yeah, at the time that they apply and maybe when that business stays in business and continues that model, but as you get to, you know,
Yeah.
property ownership changes. So I feel like I opened up a little bit of a can of worms here, but it was more this idea of our minimum lot area in those non-residential districts.
I think it's good for industrial, because I don't really think we need to be encouraging small lots within the industrial zoning district, because I think the intent when we add that in after the library discussion was that your industrial east of 196 had a lot of existing just residential lots within it, just because it's a pretty vast area of industrial zone land.
I know you.
There were a number of houses just kind of scattered throughout it. So I think it was more of an idea just to accommodate single family residential uses in that area. And maybe we just clarify that that's what our intent is, rather than allowing for, you know, traditional neighborhood designs within your industrial zoning district.
I think again, the
no.
distinction is, I think that in a commercial area, you don't want to allow independent residential development. But you do allow residential development within a particular commercial property. If that.
But I would keep the parcels large. I would
What is the
just
right
keep-
thing to do?
I think that was what I think, well, the can that I think Linnea is trying to put the cover back on. Is that I would leave the lot size large, if they want to do something within their 30,000 square foot footprint. That's fine, you do know that next door could be, a obnoxious use to your small, you know, your residential. But I would not start giving them less than, you know, we can go down to 5,000 or 10,000 within the industrial. Cause I think you will create that system that.
What if it's instead of a 3 homes, what if it's a small multifamily, you know, like a 4 family flat?
I think I like what you were saying before, David, where we already have a whole bunch of existing homes in this industrial area, so we're trying to make something that allows those existing owners that have a home that may want to do a business on their property, to allow them to do it. It's not to encourage new ones to come in.
Right.
That's what we're saying. So, and I think that's what you were saying, is go back and look at it, how to redefine how some of this is written or spelled out so that it speaks to that.
Yes, and just for the industrial conversation, I think in table 440B, I'm just gonna have to add in extra row or something here. I gotta figure out a creative way to do it. Where single family would have to be 30,000 square feet per lot in any situation. So that 5,000 is not gonna apply, that's only gonna apply to the C districts, not industrial. So, but I guess the next conversation, I just wanna cover industrial first. Because industrial, we have 30,000 square foot minimum for non-residential, and then we make the same thing for industrial, single family residential. So that we're not just encouraging neighborhoods in industrial.
Would that allow, a multifamily, small multifamily unit?
We don't allow multifamily and industrial.
Yeah.
We don't know, or just gotta think
We
about
do
it?
not allow that.
It's not allowed.
It sounds to me like this particular area needs
Oh,
more work with,
Sorry.
you guys before, and bring it forward it sounds very, like it needs more work. I mean, you've gotten some feedback, but I mean, really, you're our expert, so you gotta give us a more specifics, you know, and you got, I mean, a lot of numbers are being thrown around and so forth. Is clear the table up and we can discuss it again.
I mean, I wouldn't change anything aside from the minimum single family lot size for industrial. I mean, I think everything else was what we were recommending. Smaller residential lots in the C districts. I think that was the intent of the C districts is to allow for both commercial and small residential lots in that area, unless you think that's not.
I just have I have a concern with. Somebody comes in with a large 10-acre commercial parcel. And they wanna do a site condo and they divide it up. Sometimes you don't have to state your end use, so you could just create many 5,000 square foot residential lots. In our commercial. I guess
But do you have an example of where that could happen that you should see?
at a hospital. By across from over, I saw, we have large commercial lots.
But you'd be against housing development?
Well, the challenge is that then you have these 5,000 square foot lots, what if? I guess you're precluding someone from ever reusing those for commercial, they would have to gather 6 of them up. For 6,000 square feet. It's just because often when you divide property, you're not designating the end
No,
use,
I see that,
so that.
but no one's come to us yet.
Can we just leave this
Residential.
section here as we'll come back to this? And
And let
Renee,
you guys
if you-
think about it, because really,
Yeah, I'd be happy to think about it. I mean, I don't want to
think so.
drag it out. It just, I don't,
if you're not comfortable,
yeah.
I don't think
then-
any of us are comfortable either.
Yeah.
we're not, and maybe I'm overthinking it, I'm not against small residential lots in commercial. Maybe it's just we have them come through like a PUD process or site condo,
I would say
right?
the PUD, I don't mind looking at smaller developments, but once you open the door and allow,
Like by right.
we assume here that developers are gonna come in and they're going to want to build really nice, small homes that are affordable. But if we open the door too far, we don't give these people the tools for minimum requirements. Somebody's gonna come in and cut every corner and strike every minimum and people will look at it and say, well, how did that get allowed? Because not all developers really want the best thing
Okay.
for their people, they just wanna maximize how much cash they can take out and run with.
All right, so there's
Yeah, so we'll talk about that, and then maybe we then look at, maybe we just say this is only allowed through PUD in the C districts. And then we allow for single family residential and industrial.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what you do now, right? So you only allow for the mixed use. District, mixed within your blue star corridor overlay district where you allow for the PUD option, so. It'll give you a little bit more of a handle on what's going in if we. Wire that always happens in PUD, so.
All right. We'll allow the professional planners to put that in.
We're good. Thank you.
We don't have faith in you.
All right, page 4-7.
Okay.
4-8.
Did we talk about striking with the decorative facing material, the requirement from ground up to a 0.30% above the height of the wall, or did we talk about? This is in the last meeting.
Can you give me the letter and
Oh,
number?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I-1 requirements, D, so it's at the top of page 480D, exterior walls.
Oh, taking that out.
Yeah,
right?
we
Yeah, because we're gonna.
We were asking, do we really want every single building to look the same with that?
Yeah.
What are we gonna strike? What are we striking?
The height
The
requirement.
verbiage that says
Make up his mind about the ratio.
300 feet? Is that what you're talking about?
decorative
30%.
facing material from the ground level up to a point at least 30% of the height of such wall.
And so we're gonna strike that last.
Well, we just talked about how that decorative element is applied. It could be vertical, or right now we're saying you can only do a horizontal band at the base.
That's design.
So
What do you
remove
think?
D1.
We're removing the,
D1, is that what
I'll
you're?
take it all out.
remove the whole thing?
I don't
The whole
I don't
paragraph?
mind keeping it, but not dictating where that
Ratios.
Okay,
How
so
it's
sending it a
to be applied.
material,
Good decorative facing material, period.
okay.
Yes.
Anything else on that page? Next page. Oh. Right, Article 5. Mike says T,
3
timeout,
hours, no,
yeah,
oh, it's 2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah.
I thought we
Yeah,
were-
we're
We
not,
wanna go
we're
one
not
more
done.
hour,
yes,
yeah,
I would have to.
There's,
But
go ahead.
C3,
Yes.
is it park or land preserve?
There's parking.
Yeah, we're missing some verbiage.
I think the or comes out.
what,
I did- it
sorry,
wasn't
what page?
C, under C uses,
Are you on
I'm sorry,
5.1?
5.2, C uses, number 3.
5-1, actually.
I think the or comes out.
It's 5-1.
Or and, yes.
Got it,
Park
Okay.
and preserve, yeah.
Yes, because it mentioned something like that.
page 5-1. 5.20 C3.
5.2A, to minimize the effects.
Oh. The adverse effects.
To minimize.
You just need to delete the word the
Effects.
between adverse and effects.
Oh, the adverse to.
Effects.
The adverse to-
Anything on 5.2?
Yeah, but I think it's kind of funny. 5.3A. Read it here, provide a reasonable location within the township for transportation facilities such as truck stops and adult entertainment establishments. I think it's kind of funny to be calling that.
Transportation facility.
That's why they call it an overlay.
Gosh.
I didn't-
Sorry,
It's-
they're built for the transportation industry.
It's come up with more examples.
It's to be there.
We didn't say encourage.
Jeez. I think there needs to be even more examples that are.
Such as truck
That is
stops.
really the only reason why you have it. Because, right, truck stops, and remember, this is really kind of relates to Article 8. So in Article 8, truck stop, 8.310 says the location for truck stops are restricted to the interstate transportation overlay district.
Okay.
And then the only other place that says that is going to be in adult businesses. So that's going to be
This seems weird.
8.50.
But you're saying it's technically accurate, right?
Yep, that's 8.50B1, same thing, but they're referring to the interstate.
It suggested truckers are idiots.
Didn't you hear me? That's the primary audience for those facilities. That's why they're near truck stops.
Oh, no. Oh.
Up and down, go down the highway.
Yeah.
That's where they're
Kind
at.
of bundling people.
They have truck stops.
We could.
Everyone else goes online now.
To say that there are several sensitive land uses that are restricted to the interstate, rather than saying them in 530A, maybe we just state that there are several uses that may have higher impacts on adjacent properties or be more concerning.
It seems odd to hear those.
Yeah, because I mean, it is really the only reason why we have the interstate transportation overlay district is to say that's where those two uses are allowed.
That's really,
Well, that was
that's.
and that's the.
And we have to by law have that in, here, so.
Yes.
And we've only got one location for that now. Be the two.
Yep, that's just. Wow.
I mean, the only other way around that is if you didn't have the overlay, you could just say that they have to be industrial within X number of feet from the interchange. That's the only way to get around having overlay districts.
It was a good thing.
So we're gonna just say other uses.
I think we should leave it.
Or just leave it as.
If it's only these two, why would we
Yeah.
pretend it is?
If it's something that we have to have, we know where it's going to go.
We could get sued for it.
All right, anything in 5.3?
The only thing I would suggest is that under uses, under C, that the uses as the same and the verbiage should be the same as we have in the critical dune overlay district. There are some that are plural, some are not plural, they're the same.
Okay, yeah, just so the exact same between 540 and 520.
Yes.
All right.
Minor occupation versus the occupations, parks and, so that it would be the same. You think park and preserve under critical dune, but you have it parks and preserves under the natural river. I would just be the same.
Yeah, I think in the natural river, that would probably be the better way to phrase all of those. So maybe copy that over.
Yes, yes.
Five, 6. 5, 7.
Again, I'm assuming that the wellhead, that whoever looks at that, you're happy with that? I got the
What
little,
we had before. right?
okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the exact, pretty much exactly what we had before. And one few things, when I just read it the other day again. On page 5.7, where you have references to landfill and drilling for natural gas or petroleum, I don't think we can't regulate those by something. Those are gonna be landfills we can't regulate, we can't. Bring those districts and drilling for gas or that, any sort of mineral extraction, we can't either, so.
so we need to strike something, or is what you're saying?
I think maybe just looking at it, right, but I know the zoning enabling act addresses those things as we can't really zone them.
So where are you looking at?
It'd be C2 and 7,
On page 5.7.
5.7.
So we're gonna have to strike those?
I think so. I those caught my eye as something I wanted to check and maybe.
So you're gonna check.
Attorney as well.
Okay,
Because we can't like in
right,
where we have mineral extraction in the land use regulation table, it's a special land use across the board in every single district. In landfills, I believe there's either case law or some other state law that pre-empts us from zoning into certain locations.
we'll leave that up to you.
So we could add like a comma that says unless, permitted by state law or something like that, or. I don't know, but we can also check it back, I think. And then I know it was mentioned, someone mentioned the idea of the as-built drawings.
Yes.
And I did look, in our. It's not in the wellhead protection, sorry, it's in the man-made water body.
Right, that's right.
I was
So we move
Right.
on.
keep going.
We'll get to that.
Floodplain overlay. And. Article 6,
Wow.
are we at Article 6?
We are.
Cool. Anything you need to talk about?
Except the things that I talked to John about already, and I think we snagged them as well, so.
Did you flag everything Cindy had, and Cindy is having,
In 6,
no, just in the rest of the ordinance?
Yeah, I have to tell them what it's back,
oh, no,
sorry,
it's okay.
that's what me to get something.
No, we don't.
No.
No more deer.
No more there.
I wonder, if we get back up to the 100-year floodplain really quick. On 511. Special considerations, planning commission may attach to the conditions when applicable to grants for approval of special land use. I don't know if that actually needs to be rephrased, but does this mean that? I don't know what this means. Because some uses are gonna be permitted, they're not all special land uses, it's just whatever. Because 5.6B says permitted uses.
And G says that we do special land use review.
Yeah. Okay, so that, I guess that's what I wanted to clarify then. Is everything within a 100-year floodplain, should we just ensure that that's a special land use rather than permitted uses?
I don't know that we want to do that
Yeah.
if the development is following the rules we have in here. I don't know why it would need to come to the planning commission.
So when you're talking about the 100-year floodplain, as you run down the Kalamazoo River, there are huge tracts of marshes. So that would all be in the 100-year floodplain. So if somebody wants to build in those very sensitive areas, I think we want them to have to come to us before they come up with a plan that they say, well, we're going to fill in this area, but
Well, that's gonna be regulated by the Army Corps.
well, that's what I'm saying.
It's wetlands, yeah.
This says the planning commission in reviewing an application for a special land use in the floodplain overlay. We don't have special land uses, we just have permitted uses. So is it, I guess back to your question, Dave, do we want to? So in this floodplain overlay, we only allow farms, parking areas, parks, recreation, essential public services, and docks and piers. We don't even allow houses. So
Would we allow, if a park wanted to build a set of bathrooms?
we don't say accessory uses, but we could.
I'm just saying, you know, the Parks and Rec Commission is looking at some different parcels along the river. And they probably are within that 100-year floodplain, or at least parts of them are. And we want to make sure that if we buy this parcel, we can put a bathroom there, because we shouldn't have parks without bathrooms, even though we do.
Would it be an outhouse type situation?
Hopefully, it might have to be something like the state has, the famous one-holers, but there's nicer ways to build them now.
And we've had bad luck with the portable ones.
And we
Really
have
want one.
those
I didn't know you could, I never knew they would burn.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we know that now.
So this is, I think this overlay is a little bit confusing in general. Because you go from permitted uses and you list these few, it doesn't say residential, but then the next in prohibited use activities, they basically say you can do. Basically what this is saying is that you can do anything as long as it's over 5 feet above base flood elevation. Any sort of permanent building structure of any type, including a manufactured home. So that E is inconsistent with D. This is saying, this is alluding to the fact that you can do a manufactured home or even in a house.
I think Mr. Eiley would say that one of those areas that you need to revisit and bring it back to us.
You know,
Not to be abusive.
no. Yeah, I think these fixes, we allow for various accessory buildings and residential in the 100-year floodplain, as long as you're building them above the base flood elevation. And then special land use review considerations. I just don't know when those would apply unless the use was a special land use in the underlying zoning district. Then you would use these extra, basically supplemental special land use. Okay, I think that makes sense. It just doesn't really say that. So,
No, it doesn't.
um,
And then it also has approval standards just with planning commission and F, that's apart from the permitted, almost like there's a planning commission, back to your original question, see anything in the overlay. But I don't think we want to see everything in the overlay. And
Well, you're gonna look at that.
Okay.
This
yeah,
again
we
and
are,
bring back.
thank you,
Okay.
yes.
6-1.
Are there any sections that would be easy because, we're starting to suffer from.
We're getting tired.
Wayside syndrome.
I think we need to stay in order.
All right.
I'll just make a
Have
hurry
enough to
and come back.
I do think when we get further on.
We can get a
I
little.
think it might get faster, plan unit development.
Oh, that'll be a breeze. Yeah.
Breeze?
I rest my case.
I'm gonna leave that up to the,
So the big changes here is we reduced the minimum acreage.
Yeah.
For that, so that was a big one, but otherwise you've all reviewed this, there weren't a lot of changes in PUD.
The only thing I saw is that we should define what a mixed use PUD is.
Okay.
It just, so I'll.
will that go in definitions or will it go right there?
Probably right there.
Okay,
Right,
There you go. The density bonus stuff,
yeah,
that was important.
all right, now we're in part 3,
Ooh.
yeah, article 7. I love how you made these like clickable sections at the beginning, I think that's really helpful. Or in the digital copy. PDF.
I learned something new.
You did get ahead of me.
Oh, okay,
On page
Okay.
6.5,
yes,
number 7. There's missing verbiage on item number 7.
It's just, I think this was reordered, so that should just be a period, and then the and would go up to 6.
Okay,
But yeah, I just. I'll ask it or something.
article 7.
the only thing about channels and, canals. And, excavation is, what do you mean by that? And, it says we have an issue happening right now. And that also going to include, making a marina, boat basin. You're excavating a canal in order to go into a basin. So is that clear enough so that we wouldn't have this issue again?
I marked that up because we still do need some definitions too of canal and channel.
Okay,
Probably of excavation.
Okay.
Water frontage.
yes, I would agree.
But, and excavation can be, I would like the canal, or are they just dredging a creek?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's cleaning and maintenance, isn't it?
Well, no, my point is, if there's a creek, I mean, I don't know if this happened, but if you have a creek and they say, well, we're just going to dredge the creek and it's all of a sudden 80 feet wide. That's not doing anything for the creek, that's just creating a canal. So yes, you need definitions, so you don't have that hanging over your head again.
I think we need to do something about that.
No, we were talking about that one today as on them, and there was an illustration we had.
I did do a drawing.
Because when we get into measuring the frontage, it's kind of unclear here, and that's been an issue with the issue that you're alluding to, you know, increasing the water frontage. What does that mean?
And does that also, as we think about this, is it connected to man-made water bodies? Is there a connection? Because now I'm making, digging, yeah, I'm making a canal, but I've also made a man-made water body. You know what I'm saying? So is there some connection that needs to be done or considered? You know, I don't have an answer.
Well, if it's created out of excavation, it's man-made,
Correct.
Yes.
but it's not necessarily a pond.
Correct. But we
Can't ignore.
we
'Cause
got
you-
rid of the word pond.
We did.
Right, man-made water feature.
So now does it,
Make-
because you don't want to create a canal to a man-made water body.
So, yeah, when does a canal become a man-made water body?
Yes.
Maybe it's already covered by that.
If we don't allow it anyway, though.
Allow
We're
one.
saying we're not allowing any new channels or canals.
Well, we're snake bit because we're in court on one, and then we had somebody who wanted to go water skiing in their pond. So we've had both.
Right, well,
situations.
that's what we have to rein in.
The developments which must not be named.
So maybe we also, it's not just excavating, it's also creating them.
Could be.
Mhm.
And then, and it's,
Yeah, you're creating a new
right,
channel.
we kind of don't want to create, 'cause
Creating,
if-
excavating or dredging.
And I don't, maybe Cindy can help with some language too, but, that may become, if you're trying to reduce and not have that issue in the future.
And I think this would be a good one also to run by the attorney. Who's probably quite aware of the situation as to how we make sure that going forward, this does not come back to bite us again.
yeah, there was we were thinking a graphic would help when it comes to measuring frontage. That I shared with Dave and I'm sure we can get it into a format for in this ordinance, but yeah, it was beautiful. Handwriting by Renee. But yeah, how to measure that, just so it's really clear.
Because even that language in the old ordinance is sort of nebulous about frontage and
Okay.
Yeah,
the frontage on the newly created man-made water or on the existing one that's already there, and
yeah.
how many? But we knew this would need some work. Did we talk about do we need to define here or elsewhere, you know, what a canal is versus a channel?
Yeah, I added that, need definitions of canal, channel, like linear excavation. Yeah, the idea of creating. Whatever might be water frontage, I thought could maybe be to.
Probably the more the better, right? I hate to go back, but the page before, I just wanted to ask, is at the top, 7.8 ground mounted equipment is highlighted yellow. Does that mean, well, that meant there was input on that. Okay, never mind. I thought it meant green is if Dave has a question. And he had questions on canals and channels, so.
And I wonder if the Army Corps already has like existing definitions of that.
It's a good point.
That's a great point.
So, yeah.
Undoubtedly. Yeah.
We probably have language for creating channels and canals and definitions that we just say. Cannot do that.
Yeah.
Usually that's it.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
let's
ask.
do that. Anything else in this chapter?
The only comment or the only other thing I had is under G, dock regulations. If I remember, right, it's the yellow one, or where it's. Yeah, on
Page 7,
5 or 7.4. And G, just talk about all, well, the next sentence here, which is the area between the side lot lines if extended into the water body. And I'm just wondering, is area the right word or is it distance? Because we're talking about, I think Gordon, maybe you speak to this because you were pretty familiar with how you extend that in but I was trying to imagine it. So we're measuring a line between the two property lines and then we're extending that into the water for because it's talking about the docks, boat lifts, pilings and other dock accessories and extensions shall fall within the riparian rights area, which is the area between the side lot lines if extended into the water body. So
Yeah.
I'm just,
So the setback is, in the current text, I believe the setback applies to where it's connecting to the shoreline. But as soon as you get over the water, there's no setback that applies to it. It just needs to be within the riparian rights area. So,
you're extending those lot lines into the water, correct?
yes,
Yeah.
then you have to just be in between those with no measurement from that.
Okay, so area is the right word, yes.
With a caveat, though, those lines don't extend straight into the water.
What do they do?
Sometimes they do and sometimes they
Sometimes they
don't.
do and sometimes they don't.
You mean
It depends
if
on the
it's
shape of
angled or not?
the water.
Yeah.
So let's say it's a circular lake. Those lot lines turn into a pie shape to the center of that lake. Let's say it's a rectangular lake and the lot is perfectly perpendicular to the shoreline, then they just go straight to the middle of the lake. But they always are different depending on the context of the lake.
Well, that's if lot lines go, I think that's a good point. I think maybe we make the distinction, if your lot lines actually do run into a water body, you have to be within your lot lines. But if it's not a creek or something that the property line just is at the water's edge, the property lines don't already extend into the water, then we'd extend them, by sketching it up, but yeah, there are some cases where there are water bodies, inland water bodies where lot lines meet into the middle of the pond. And I think maybe we clarify that that's gonna be your riparian rights area.
It's contextual.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's it.
And in Michigan, if you have property that abuts water, the statute is you have riparian rights unless they're excluded. They have to be like written, like you do not have riparian rights. Your rights are excluded with this deed. You have to go out of your way and communicate that really clearly. So everybody who's up against water has riparian rights and they're always on different angles, depending on what's happening in front of you. Now, your other comment was we have to be, a certain distance from the edge of the lot line on dry land. And you just have to be within your riparian rights once you're out in the water. You don't have to be 20 from the edge once you're out into the water. As far as I know, that's accurate.
So if somebody has built a dock and the dock comes into the land, it's 20 feet from his adjoining landowner.
Yep.
But he can go out and then tee off the dock and
Yep.
build, 10 feet.
As long as,
His dock goes
Yes.
within 10 feet of his. And we really only have to worry about that on the inland lakes, because if you're building on
can't do that.
on the Kalamazoo River, or Kalamazoo Lake, or Silver Lake, that's all navigable waterway, and that's all controlled by the Army Corps at Eagle.
Mhm.
So we're only talking about the small, like Goffin Lake.
Are you saying that this doesn't apply to Silver Lake?
That's why I want to come back to that, because I think Silver Lake,
I think it does apply.
I think it does.
I've read it somewhere that it actually applies to Silver Lake.
Silver Lake wouldn't, If you put a dock in on Silver Lake, do you say you do not need Army Corps approval?
I don't think so.
If it's a seasonal dock, you don't.
Because we get a lot of
If
those
it's a permanent
disputes
dock,
come
you
to
do.
us and
You need Eagle or a permanent dock.
Okay.
we tell them to hire a lawyer
I hate that I know.
because of the things Gordon just said. It's not always a straight line. The neighbors think it is. and We can't make the judgment for them. Meaning the town.
Gordon, do you feel like there are any changes we need to make to this chapter? Is this something that you'd feel comfortable?
I don't see any now, but I will scrub it.
Okay. I think that would be helpful since you worked through it a few times.
Yeah.
All right. Page 7. 7, 8. 7, 9. Oh, it looks like 7, 9, the green, we do need to finish that sentence, right?
Mhm.
Oh, I think in the previous conversations, we had, that maybe 150, I believe, I want to confirm. There was an earlier comment responses that. Fire code said 150, so that was more of a clarification that I want, I know we had talked about that earlier in the project.
You know, this is a good reminder that we should have Chris Mantles. The fire district, maybe review this section and our private codes and stuff.
Absolutely.
I was wondering if you need to list under that or B, that it, does that have to support a fire truck? You know, that 80 pounds per whatever that they always put in their letters.
Yeah,
Put that as. Fire truck can be a fire apparatus, correct?
Apparatus. Yeah. I only thought that because you have unobstructed vertical clearance of,
Well, you can
13
pick it up
feet.
with on page 710 E that. Everything we've said is just fine, he's going to get fire department approval.
I would say we should have it compared to, and maybe Chris can do this. The Township now subscribes to the International Fire Code. And they might have language that could help us.
yeah, I know it's on their website, they have their driveway standards on there, and I'm sure we could just mimic those here. We can get that, that's right. And yeah, that E definitely says it, that supersedes our ordinance.
Yeah.
7-11.
are we, I noticed that we're keeping the number of flags that people can fly on their flagpole at 2.
Why do we care how many flagpoles
I
the
know.
farmer has on his property? Why is that important?
Because obviously at one time, there was an idiot who had,
Okay.
you know?
I just found out something.
And you know, it's just like, that's the only reason it would be there, because somebody was an idiot.
Hey, do we limit the size of the flag? Is it-
I was instructing to strike.
Yeah, we talked about striking that and the number and quantity.
Flags, strike, yeah, it was, meeting at the school. Yeah.
There's several meetings, probably the one when I was in England. So we don't care how big the flag is. Bothers me more than the number of flags.
I think Michael's point is that we probably should just stay away from this. They want to have 30 Trump flags flying, let them have it.
What about the neighbors?
No, let's leave it. We had a neighbor flying Confederate flag. That did not go down well with the neighbors.
No, but
And that wasn't that long
but you
ago.
also have a First Amendment right to. I don't want to be ticketed by the
I'm okay with
VFW.
ratings. I would take it out.
Want to take a vote?
Too prescriptive.
And
Wait, so which one are we discussing? The number,
The number.
of flag poles.
The number of poles.
Oh, I read that wrong. I thought it was a number of flags you could fly in the
No,
pole. I'm
no,
sorry.
yeah.
Poles.
I completely read that incorrectly.
So who's limiting residential to 2 poles per property?
For residential?
Yeah.
I think that's
Residential
fine.
or farm?
Yeah.
So, I guess let's just say, who votes to keep it the way it's written?
Yeah.
Okay, that passed.
And then just with one clarification, when I struck those final 2 rows, I should also strike the word flags in the line of C and then the flag in the table title. Because we're really want to talk about poles.
Poles,
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just, so I
Oh, there are no
Correct.
requirements for that.
I should have removed those when I removed those. 2
Yeah.
rows at the bottom.
And probably in like A2, right? And just. Freestanding flag poles, just only 2
Yes.
poles.
Yeah, correct, yeah, that's.
And this is freestanding, it's not a flagpole on your porch.
Right.
So that's important.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Page 711. 712. 713.
Lenny, the only thing I wanted to add, you and I could talk about it, for 700. On page 712, how to measure setbacks. For conventional condos where. You have multiple single family or 2 family, or any type of building on one. Parcel with no lot lines whatsoever and no site condo lines either, so the conventional condo, there's no lines whatsoever. So how do you measure a side setback between buildings that are all on one lot? And so I have some language here that would basically allow us to compare apples to apples between when we have site condo lines and property lines. Versus this situation, a conventional condo we have done. So I already sketched something up, for you, but it doesn't change anything, it's just a way for you to interpret setbacks when you have a conventional condo project with multiple buildings on one condo project site.
Yeah, we're seeing these for some reason. Yeah, typically there are lot lines in a site condo, but in this, there's none. But we typically make that, have the applicant draw it up as if it were individual lots, but guidance on how you do the setbacks would be helpful. Okay. 714. Seven 15.
I thought some of the wording was just a little bit awkward. It's not a big deal.
And
On number E2,
E2.
private street serving for fewer lots or building sites shall have a minimum surface width of 20 feet. And within an easement, a minimum width of 33 feet. What do you think? Add the word
Add the word
and then delete the second word with,
Yes,
and then the same thing in B,
great.
a minimum surface width of 20 feet and within an easement. A minimum of width of 66 feet.
Page 7-16.
Could you look at number 5 again on that? Make sure that we have the right, because,
For the paving,
yes, because I. Private, as I looked at this, it says, private streets that serve 5 or more lots or building sites must be paved. Okay, and then apparently, then as you go down to private streets which serve 10 or fewer lots or building sites underneath need not be paved. So if I'm 5 or more, I have to be paved, but if I serve 10 or fewer, I don't have to be paved. It doesn't quite,
Yeah, it should be 5 or less, don't have to be.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be, it was 10 from our conversation, but, so I think the first sentence needs to be updated to,
Okay.
yeah, because I think one of the conversations we had, we went back and forth on the number of lots served. And so,
you just have to reconcile the numbers.
yeah, we just need to make sure when one thing changes, something else references,
Yeah.
it must change too, so I appreciate that we're catching.
Perfect.
Right. This is another section we'll have Chris Mantle look at.
Well, the biggest thing with private roads, there are streets that I have heard, and it, not necessarily in this township. But if there isn't, and I think it's got to be very clear to developers or the people who own the land, if they don't maintain their roads, and it mentions it in here, that the township says that's a bad road. Township may pave it, but your
Be assessed.
people have to pay for it. You might have to say, I'm gonna pave it, and I think you say that.
In other words, they can enforce a special assessment district on the owner. of the
Yes,
property.
in fact, the property owners on that private street are not maintaining their roads. Is that, did I read that correctly? That,
It says that township authority.
yep, that's what I read.
Yeah,
No obligation, but if they need to, they could.
Yes, and it's sole discretion, that that's a bad road,
But if they choose to do it, you can do it.
yes, and then the assessment occurs, they have no choice. Is that what it means, property owners?
subject to reimbursement. It doesn't say how that reimbursement would happen.
Is that important to do that, or just leave it?
Well, I guess it brings a good point. So it's $50,000 to do it, and just for homeowners, they have to cough up.
I don't know how, I guess we could ask, it's a legal question
That's
on
legal.
how we would.
I would
Apply that.
Because we have done SADs for as few as 4 parcels, which
You have a lot of.
personally don't
streets
approve of that,
in this-
but it
in
has.
this Area,
That are not.
there's a problem,
It's up to the homeowners.
Yes. if they have a good one.
If they have one.
Yeah, but if they don't. then they
Yeah,
do
I
it.
see.
Exactly.
All right, I'll just leave that up to you guys.
And council. That's, you know,
That's a council, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's a hard decision.
On 717, I'm just wondering on G2A, do we change the word snow plowed here also to kept clear?
Oh,
Because we did that somewhere else.
Yes,
yep.
And then there's, I think, a typo under, if you go down to 2F. It says provisions authoring the township. I think it should be authorizing the township.
authorizing.
You're authorizing, yeah,
Okay, authoring should be authorizing.
yes.
It, because it's a property. So,
Yeah, it is.
All right,
I meant photo.
specific use requirements. So these are requirements for uses that are not special land use. Right? These are good spots.
They could be very special.
Yeah.
I have a question only because it says shipping containers at the bottom of 8.2, maybe used as an accessory building. As long as it's applicable to building codes, shipping containers are being used a lot, they make them in homes and so forth, so. Are we saying that we don't want that type of building in this? Somebody says, I want to build this house, but I'm gonna make it out of shipping containers. As long as it meets our other state building code, then they can use whatever material they want.
Well, this is specific to accessory buildings.
What if I want to do an accessory dwelling unit?
Any dwelling unit has to meet our dwelling standards.
Okay, so I could use that container
If
as
it
long
meets our
as it
dwelling
meets.
standards.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, and
thank you.
you can use that container for like a shed, for
Okay.
example,
Okay,
as long as it meets building code.
okay,
That's been a recent change that wasn't in your ordinance draft comments, so good eye.
I didn't
Because
see
we've had
that.
some questions come up in the last few weeks. All right, it is 7:35.
The next section is 35 pages.
Okay, I just wanna
Or no,
know.
48 pages.
Well,
It's a big-
just to clarify, so our next meeting is scheduled for,
There's debate over that.
Well, that is, so I don't know. Let me answer your question, then we can decide what we wanna do. We have our regular planning commission meeting is October 17th. It's a Tuesday. It's a regular time period, 6 o'clock. That's still on the schedule.
Is there anything on the agenda?
The only thing on the agenda is what we put on the agenda, so it could be this, it could be that public open house, maybe we're not ready for that. We could both. We're at your disposal, if you wanna meet and continue going through this, we can do that at that
And
meeting.
we went at 5,
What day is
and
it?
I don't think we're ready to meet the public yet.
I don't think we're ready.
I missed the date.
The 17th, the regular date, we would have had.
Yeah, 5 o'clock on the 17th, I think. would be-
Yep, got it.
I can tell you that I won't be here. So I'll just make my comments. I'll get them rest of my comments to you, Monday,
I appreciate
because I will not be here on the 17th.
Okay,
Tucson.
okay, so does
And I-
that?
and I may not be here on the 17th.
You may not be here on the 17th,
We
so.
can't have two gone.
I can confirm
I
that.
mean, we can.
No,
I can confirm that tonight.
I know that both of you could get us written comments, I know, before the
Mhm.
meeting.
Yep.
I think if we wanna do that and just have our regular meeting and 5 o'clock works for me if we wanna start early and finish this. If that's the plan, I think tonight, since we're all here, maybe we wanna set a date for that public open house. I know Dave has a trip coming up. I also have a trip in November. Denise has a trip in November. We have a holiday. So if we wanna just set that up, that would be.
How does that open house work? Then
Yeah, that open house would be an overview presentation of the document.
Okay.
We'll have the zoning map hung up, the current, the proposed. We can have comment sheets and then we're here for questions and you all can be here as spokespeople for
Or I think.
things in it, yeah. of
Because that
course.
would also have to be noticed and advertised, and we talked about making sure we invite the original
Yes.
stakeholders. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot of prep for that.
So,
But November, the third Tuesday is the day before Thanksgiving.
We'll start with the first week of November. Who's not here?
The name is not here. We're not
The
here.
second week of November. Going once.
I've got something, so no, I wouldn't be here.
So then we have our regular meeting, which is the 21st. We could do it then.
We could do the public hearing
Everyone's here
at
the
5.
21st.
Yep.
And then,
Yeah, but
And then do our-
like I said, it's 2 days before Thanksgiving, it might hinder attendance.
well, otherwise we push it to December.
I just bringing it up. Or maybe do the 28th.
Denise?
I've looked at the timeline that we were provided. And we've heard many times that we don't want to rush this. And the timeline actually for the hearing, notice and public hearing, or even the open house, it's not really until March or April. If you look at the timeline here. So, why is it that we feel that we have to get this all done before January? I know the board wants to get it, but, because of the holidays, taking another month to really make sure that we have this is our best of our ability, and is why are we rushing it over November and December.
Well, you know, I agree. I for delay all along because we need the time. I don't know what you meant by March, April. Did you mean this year?
Of 2024. If
That's
you
the
look at the
That's the original
timeline,
plan?
I don't remember that. Because
oh, yeah,
So I guess the question is for Lene, is there anything that's being held up?
So nothing is being held up. We do have the moratorium, but I
Right.
did hear from board members and the manager that can be extended at the November.
we should extend it next week then.
Meeting. It can be
We
extended.
can add it. The agenda is not.
It can be extended in October or in the November
Okay.
meeting because it goes through December.
Okay.
So we've got some.
That was
other-
one of the issues.
Dave, I don't know your thoughts on things.
He's sick of us.
I think you need to schedule meetings until you're comfortable.
Yeah,
I mean, I know the open house, I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% at that point, because that's prior to the public hearing. So the open house, the intent is to get feedback and possibly have changes, so. You know, I mean, you still want it to be in good shape, and maybe you go through this round. And then you have the orders.
But then what that would require is something on the website stating in general terms. How this changes from what we had before. To give people something to, so talking about your setback.
Someone had to write that, so the highlights of what's different.
Yeah. So.
And decide if we're just putting the draft on the website. What if people want a copy? It's,
I would say you have to put the draft on the website because it's always better to give them full access to everything, otherwise you're hiding something.
Right.
And by the amount of participation we've had thus far, I don't think an open house is going to be a huge event with people debating. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? There might be one or two pointed questions, but that's why, I mean, I've got some vacation coming up, I haven't set up, so I'll work around it because I think.
and I don't see it falling, I mean, if it went another month. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think there's a.
no, I'd rather have it in January.
okay, so why don't we plan to meet
We may take that long.
at our regular planning commission meeting in October
So the
and
17th.
the 17th,
All right.
and then we'll have our regular
At 5 or
meeting.
6?
Oh,
All right.
5 o'clock, yeah.
I'll have to change my acupuncture.
Do we want to do 5 or 6?
I think five works for everyone, then then we're out by.
Eight's fine.
So it's getting darker earlier and earlier. You need our building official.
I don't know, I'd written down last time we met, to reserve Monday the 30th, but do we want to have a second meeting in October?
I may not be.
I don't know where I got that from.
I can't.
That's all right.
Yeah,
I can't,
I can't do this.
all right.
And then reminder, you have your training
Yep.
on the 24th.
Yep.
Okay,
And that's here now,
and
you
that's
said?
here in the boardroom,
Okay.
5 o'clock.
It is 5 o'clock. Okay.
When we have that training, are we gonna look at the current checklists that were provided so that we, during that training, that we get used to the checklists and.
Yeah.
I know we didn't just talk about it, but if you're comfortable with them, then to use those during the training would be beneficial to us.
I agree with
I
you,
agree.
and that's why we did set it back from the original, I think, May or June, but I'll make sure that Daniel corresponds with the trainer,
Okay,
because I'm not in direct contact with them, but we will make sure that the trainer, I think it's Paula Blanc, actually, who we all know. Okay, so that would be, so the 17th at 5.
Yep.
We'll get that changed out into the paper. And then we will meet November 21. Also, that's our regular meeting. Should we just keep it at 6?
What, might we still be doing this?
We might still be doing this.
There's fine.
Let's do 5.
Man, worst case scenario, we go home earlier.
Right.
Right.
I mean, we're getting used to this 5 o'clock.
Right. That way we'll notice both of those changes in one newspaper ad, so that would be
Yeah.
efficient.
What time's the training start?
5
And-
o'clock.
November 21st, is that going to be the public meeting?
No,
Or the-
I think we will decide at the
Yeah,
November
we gotta see
meeting
how
when
it
to
goes.
hold the public.
Which in all likelihood will be in January.
And let me just let you know, we might have something, a change to an approved site plan for the brewery. So it's probably good that we're taking a few more meetings, because one meeting we might have a business item to share the agenda time.
Okay,
So a change we can look at even with the curfew, the moratorium.
Yeah,
It's a-
right.
It's a change. Yeah.
That's what I said to them. I said, since it's something that's already in progress and
Yes.
we've already been working on, it wouldn't be subject to the moratorium.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were really glad to hear that.
That's my interpretation is.
I would think so. The moratorium is like new things.
One of the things though is I think some of the things in our ordinance, they appreciate, right? Like the paving of parking and some of our new parking calculations. So I said, work off of the new ordinance and just be ready to identify where there are differences. And since you are a special land use, we can make, adjustments with the planning commission. I'm sorry.
And then the site plan training by MAP, have the two cities joining us? or-
Yes, I heard that they are, yeah.
okay.
So the planning commissions of Douglas and Saugatuck.
So we probably move those other tables in here from the conference room and. Yeah,
We don't make them sit on the audience like they make us sit when we go there.
so I think that. Is this the stopping point then?
Yes.
Probably,
okay.
yes, yeah.
And so we'll pick up Article 8. And. That's where we'll go.
So open to close public comment.
Oh.
And then, as far as reports, I think Renee just kind of covered. Yeah, staff. Did you have anything as far as,
Well, their board meets every month, yeah.
yeah,
I'm not trying to make this long, but several things that we did in September are kind of relevant, or I would hope of interest. I won't bother with public comment. We delayed the library appointment to the board because there was only one applicant, and we've got, I think, 5 that we'll look at in October. But the roundabout, we had a presentation, Veritas Design Group, we engaged on the design for the roundabout at Blue Star and Old Allegan Road, did a presentation of existing roundabouts in the country, new ones, and get a feel from the board what we'd like it to look like. And then we got into the matter of a sculpture to go in the middle of the roundabout. And we had a presentation from Stephen Mottram and Mary Jo Lemansky, who both used to own and run the Water Street Gallery. Our work has been presented and offered through them. I just don't have a picture. I'll try to send you one. Anyway, it's a modern sculpture. It's yellow. We had a very lively conversation about it. The initial reaction was a bit negative. And after their presentation and particularly me and Daniel speaking about it, we ended up approving purchase of the statue. 3-2. It was a close vote, but it's done. And it's on its way to get powder coated, and then it'll be stored at the Capizzo Gallery. Probably for a year or more until the roundabout's completed.
So the roundabout's gonna happen.
oh yeah.
Well, the roundabout's been approved for a while.
Road.
Yeah, this was just us hiring the design firm. That's been approved for a while, Mike, and you knew that.
No, I didn't, but go ahead.
Oh, well, you should have. Oh, and almost the entire cost of the sculpture is coming to us. We've already got the money. The CVB board approved a grant for the public, so on our behalf, so. A lot of talk about a Lakeshore Drive alternative road to be built to the west of those homes. We actually voted to instruct the road commission that we did not like their original plan and suggestion, which would have been a road. For I think 2 or 3, I don't know. The speed limit would have been 50 miles on this road. And we said, no, we want this built like a local road, 2 lanes with a bike path and 35. So that we voted to instruct them.
So I'm not able to follow you. You said Lake Shore Drive?
Yeah,
So where is this road on Lake Shore Drive?
it's going behind the houses.
Oh, to connect the missing link. I see.
And also,
Triangle.
and to guard for the future when the original Lakeshore Road continues to fall down the hill.
Are we going to maintain the right to use the road for a bikeway? So the road can be wide enough for a bikeway or walkway.
That was also part of that. Request was that there be a separated bike path or
Well,
trail.
along, but
Yes.
I would like to maintain the bike path as long as we can along Lake Shore, and I don't think the people where. the
What
road
bike path on
ends
Lake Shore?
Have the right to stop people from,
But what bike path exists there?
well, the road that's there now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
you have the break,
Okay,
Yeah,
and those people have fenced off,
Yeah.
so you can't even walk on where the road was.
right.
And I think,
we didn't weigh in on that matter in this memo. This memo was more for the
All right.
idea of a new road connection.
I'm curious about that too. How are they able to? fence that up?
So you're talking about like where the
So the safety.
people have taken over the washout, the hotels, the furniture family?
Yeah, they've.
So that's got nothing to do with this.
Right.
well, it's a point that if you're gonna apply pressure and you're gonna be building a new road and any of that money is coming from the township coffers to save them because their residential road may be gone with the next storm, or at least part of it. It's a shame that we don't have the ability to ride or walk or run along Lake Michigan. And then only those couple houses
Right.
stop that.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you on that. I
I do
would
too.
suggest we engage our legal counsel.
Yep.
The road commission has been no support, no help with that one. They basically act like, well, they sort of took it over and it's theirs.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, there's decks, there's furniture.
Then we support the idea of you referring it to the attorney because the bike ride we just had, I mean, the bike ride would go all the way along Lake Michigan, except it has to turn off and come up. So now you're forced to ride on N89 for part of the fall bike
Yeah.
ride because those people block it off.
Well, M89 is not part of Lake Shore.
Huh?
I don't know.
He's just meaning that.
I'm just saying,
You have to take a detour.
Yeah.
Can't connect.
It's a big inconvenience.
So at least get a pathway.
No, I think we should then pursue this inquiry relative to this plan to the road commission and our legal counsel.
So that would be, I thought as a planning commissioner, if you're planning on doing this and we're investing our time and money as a
I think
township.
that's very valid. Well, I'm happy to share that with the board, and if anyone would like to come and represent the planning commission, I would encourage you to do that.
The worst they can do is yell.
Yeah, because they're related, but they're not, I mean,
Right.
no,
Well, if you're gonna make a stand, this is the time to do it.
I agree.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, the road construction's not starting anytime soon, but we felt it was a big turning point to get them off that major road at 50 mile speed. It was just
Yeah.
Well, that was ridiculous.
crazy.
You were correct.
We're also, we're doing further work. The Outdoor Discovery Center is working with us and advising us on setting up a sustainability committee or an ad hoc sustainability committee, which is kind of grown out of the original ad hoc committees we had for the planning commission, but let's make it focused on sustainability and cross all the lines we had, the areas we had, housing, economic development, conservation. And just next year, just so you're aware, a lot of changes in the election laws in Michigan. Clerk Israels gave us an update. We're gonna have 3 elections next year. February, August, November. Township, elections here, held here in this room. The new law is you have to have 9 days of early voting. You have to be open for 9 days before the election.
What was it?
For,
Really?
we didn't have it.
There was none. It went from 0 to 9 days.
9 days,
Wow.
8 hours a day. So we can do it 8 to 4, which is when we're open anyway. You have to have 5 election workers
No kidding.
every day. They also allowed us and encouraged communities to band together. So the city of Saugatuck voters will come here for the 9 days. Election day, they'll stay downtown. Douglas said, we don't want to participate. We're going to stay on our own. But it'll make it, especially for them, because they have a lot fewer voters, third of the vote, less than a third of the voters we have. And
What's the February election?
that's the presidential primary,
Yes.
which is still not 100% set in stone. That could change, but
That changes by the minute.
there's a lot of question marks coming to our clerks, the clerks are just. They're having all these trainings and meetings and then things get changed, but as of now, that's the plan.
Okay.
And you can always vote absentee. So, any questions? But thank you. I like that idea of linking this into the.
You want this? Give me that.
Or maybe the Parks Commission has to do it.
Oh, wait, well, I'll put all that on that money.
You could buy the land from the Toswas. It's at their land. That's what I don't get, why the commission doesn't support us on that. I'm done, thank you.
That's it? Any other comments from the commissioners? No?
We're good.
All right. We just make a motion?
Yeah, I did.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
All those in favor? All right, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. The majority of you on